president would say, you need to come to order, clerk call the roll. So before we do that, I wanted to invite who these student councilors are going to be here today. Javante Edwards, come on up. So you are going to be sitting right here, in Buzzy Barton's seat. You are the vice president. Representing Councilor Field, Bridget Sanchez. There's Brian's seat. Right over, so what is it okay? Bridget is over here. Representing Councilor Lapierre, Cameron Stewart. Cameron, from Lynn English High School. Those three folks I just mentioned are all from Lynn English, and also from Lynn English, representing Councilor Net, Samantha Todd. Where is Samantha? Representing Ward 1, we have, which is Councilor Rose, Mia Nicolopoulos. Mia, you will be right over here. And Mia is from St. Mary's. Representing Councilor Ward 2, which is Rick Starboard from St. Mary's, Taylor Hogan. Taylor here? Yep. Representing the City Council President, Odelia Mendez. You're up here, Odelia. Representing Ward 4, Councilor Calucci. Excuse me, Odelia is from Lynn Tech. Odelia, you're the Council President, which one's here. Representing Ward 4, Councilor Calucci is Valerie Vaughn from Lynn English. Valerie? Valerie, not here. Representing Ward 5, which is Councilor Jakutis from Lynn Tech, Marcus Taylor. Representing Councilor Capano from Lynn Classical, Jennifer Guerra Martinez. And I apologize if I mispronounce any names. And finally, representing Councilor Jay Walsh from Lynn Tech, Lucia Gonzalez. Okay. So we need a Ward 4 council, which is going to be right here. Do I have any volunteer? Don't make me pick. Anybody want to be Ward 4 council for today? Who said it? Right here? Gentleman in the front row. And just for the record, the way he was volunteered, his friend was like this.
You guys should go. You guys should.
Lynn Tech? So welcome. Before I introduce our keynote speakers, so the City Council, there's 11 City Councilors. There are 4 Councilors at large, which represent the entire city, and then there are 7 Ward Councilors, and they represent certain parts of the city. And that makes up our body, which is 11. The way that a City Council meeting is run, and I don't know if you learned this in school, but it's called Robert's Rules of Order, and it's parliamentary procedure. And it sounds official, and it is, because you can't just have chaos. You can't have you talking about one thing and having this person say, no, you're wrong, and then having this person say, you're stupid. There's got to be very much order, professionalism, and even when you disagree, you do so in a manner that's respectful. So it's run by parliamentary procedure. Nobody can speak unless the City Council President recognizes that person. So if you want to speak, you raise your hand, just like in school, right? And nobody can speak unless they're recognized. And so we're going to talk to 2 councilors that live and breathe this job. They're going to try to educate you what a City Councilor does. And then we're going to have a mock kind of a City Council meeting and talk about a couple of issues that we think could spark some debate. Okay, so first up, you go in the order. First up is Ward 6. He's been a City Councilor for how many terms? 7th term, and it's a 2-year term, so I'll do the math, 14 years. So Peter Capano represents, and I talked about City Councilors at large and Ward Councils. Peter is the Ward 6 City Councilor. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Peter Capano.
I'd like to welcome you all today. Just a few things before I'll tell you what I do as a ward councilor, very similar to everybody else, but everyone here was chosen by your schools and by us, the future leaders of the city. I just want to say that, you know, whatever you have, whatever your passion is in your life, stick to it and don't give up. No matter what, there's no such thing as losing, whether it's a debate here today or anything in your life. You just pursue it. And if you have something that you love, that you want to find, you know, for your life that makes you happy, make sure you choose that passion and stick to it and fight for it. So I want to welcome you here. It's an honor for me to be here. I'm the councilor of Ward 6. I represent constituents from down by the GE over near Saugus, the Saugus Bridge over there, the Lynn Way, border downtown and up to Pine Hill a little bit. What the ward council job consists of is a couple of things. One is constituent calls. If your street's not plowed correctly, you would call DPW. If it didn't show up, you would call the councilor. Your tree branches, potholes, street light is out, that sort of thing. We try to help and try to make those things happen for you. We also, all of us have full-time jobs. It's a part-time job. A lot of people think that we work here full-time at City Hall. We don't. We all have full-time jobs, and we try to manage our time by you know, going to our regular work, and then after work trying to satisfy the needs of the constituents and also the needs of the city. In my particular ward, we have the Lynn Way and the waterfront, so there's a series of meetings that we go to. We meet with developers and property owners to try and improve business. We meet with the state to try and bring the ferry. The ferry is Lynn, coming to Lynn, going to Boston. You know, in the summer we're trying to make that more of a consistent thing. We have abandoned railroad tracks that go through Ward 6. And we're trying to build a rail trail. So we have meetings all the time. We have a flooding issue over in Ward 6, over down the end of Valley Street, and Orchard Street, over by the river, the Saugus River. We're trying to find ways to remedy those types of situations. So we have a variety of things that we do. So I'm going to hand this off to Jay Walsh, Council Ward 7. Then I'll come back and I'll tell you about what we're going to do next. Thank you.
Like Pete said, I'm the council for Ward 7, which represents from Walnut Street and the Saugus line all the way down to where the new market baskets built. Pete and I, our wards are very similar. They're right next to each other. There's some overlap with the type of community stuff that goes on. I also am fortunate enough that I work with Pete Capano in my regular job at the union for the General Electric Company. One of the things I think that people don't realize, as Pete says, that these are not a full-time job here, but we spend as much time doing a full-time job. You know, we try to find a balance between what we do on a regular basis for a regular job here and also our family. It's difficult sometimes. You don't always get to be everywhere you want to be, and people forget about that. And it's important that if you try to step into a role like this, you have balance in your life. Whatever you do, try to make sure you take care of the family, what you're doing here, and your regular job. Some of the things Pete spoke of, that he has issues in his area, the same as mine. We have a river back there. There's a lot of flooding problems with these last couple of storms. People lost a lot of their stuff in their house, had to move out. Some people are still out. So those are issues that we deal with. We have to cross over to the state, ask the state for help, have meetings with them in here. Also, our roles here, we are a committee member, head of like a licensing committee. So a lot of the issues that you don't see everything happening on the floor happen before the meeting in committees where we debate out different issues. I'm the licensing chair, so a lot of the flammable licenses for different businesses and things that are going to come up. We have to talk with the businesses whether we're going to issue them, making sure they have enough parking in the area, making sure that the neighbors are okay with it, making sure we're representing the people that elected us properly to make sure that they're happy. So there's a whole bunch of things that happen outside of this chamber that you don't always see on TV or hear about. It takes a lot of time and effort to get to those spots, and a lot of people say, oh, it was pretty quick when they voted on it, but it took a lot of phone calls, a lot of meetings that we put together with people to hear them out and understand the issues and whether or not they're wanting to have this particular thing happen. So, but with that, I'm going to pass it back to Pete. Thank you very much.
Okay, so what we're going to do here is we want to give the time to you all down there. So what we're going to do is have a mock debate. What we do on the council a lot of times is we debate certain issues. We recently had a wage theft ordinance that we passed, and the different points of views on that, and in the end it turned out that that particular vote was unanimous, and we passed a wage theft ordinance that requires employers to pay their workers fairly. But there were some issues that we debated that aren't unanimous. So just a few things about what I'm going to say here. The issues, we chose an issue of gun violence. As people know, it's a serious issue and a problem. People know what's going on in schools, around random shootings, it's awful. So we thought this would give us a chance for you all here to debate the issue of gun violence. So there's a few things about the debate. I mean, what you see on TV sometimes, it's almost like it's not real. And the way to really move forward and really have things move to the next level is to have a civil discussion. That's really what it is. It's not to say that they can't be passionate about the issues, something you feel strongly about, but in order to move forward, you have to be able to debate. This needs to be civil discourse. And we don't see that a lot on TV, but that's what we try to do here in Lynn. A lot of times we don't agree, but we leave here, we shake hands, and we move on to the next issue. Just a couple of things that I'm going to throw out there. What I try to do, and I know others do the same thing. When I'm in a debate and I'm thinking about the issue, I always think about who, what, where, when, and how. If you get lost and you go to those words right there, that might take you to a new way of looking at the issue. So you want to try to come at it from all types of angles. Sometimes you have passion for an issue, and things are just going to come out because you feel really strongly about it, and you won't have to worry about that. But so what I'm going to just say here, and I'm going to leave it, Mr. Cowdell here is going to chair the meeting, and we'll interject if we have to. And I want you to feel comfortable. There's no such thing as a stupid comment or a stupid question. We're here to improve ourselves, to improve. What we try to do on the council is we're always here to improve the quality of life, to improve the standard of living of people. And the only way you can do that is through discussion and a vote. This is a democracy. So what I'm going to say is on the issue of gun violence, it has been a proposal made in Washington that teachers should be armed. So keep that in the back of your head, and then let's have some discussion on what people think of that. And if it takes you somewhere else, and someone comes up with a proposal that you need to vote on, we can do that too. So I'm going to hand this off to Mr. Cowdell here to chair the meeting, and we'll begin the debate. Thank you.
So Adelia is the council president, okay? So each one of you are going to speak, so get ready. So let's pretend for a moment that, let's start over here. Who's my Ward 1 councilor? Mia. Mia, let's pretend, and this is not, this may not be your personal belief. Let's just, so we get a meeting going. Let's pretend that you have made a motion and it has been seconded. And so the motion that you made was that because of the recent violence in Florida and other violence in the country, that you think to protect the students, you want the teachers to be able to carry weapons in class. So, and again, that's not necessarily what you believe, but let's pretend that that's the motion. So Mia has made a motion and has been seconded that teachers shall be armed. Okay, so that's what's going on right here. And so whether you're for it or against it, before we vote on it, everybody's going to have the chance to speak. And to speak, you raise your hand, and my council president will recognize you, and then you voice your opinion on whether or not you think it's a good idea for teachers to have weapons. Okay, Mia? So, Amelia, you are here, so let's generate some discussion. Who wants to speak on Mia's motion to arm the teachers? Good idea, bad idea? Hold on, so I go into like that, and you are on TV. So now, excuse me one second. So he raises his hand, so now you point to him, and that gives him the ability to speak. Okay? You're up.
I say I motion that, or do I just speak? Do I have to say I motion that, or do I just...
So we're pretending that Mia has made the motion, and somebody has seconded it. So now what's going on is now there's discussion on the motion. So now you have the ability to speak on the subject.
I don't believe teachers should be armed with weapons because there's been scenarios where I've seen teachers single out certain students because of situations, just because how that student acts compared to the rest of the kids. And you don't want a teacher to get out of hand because he has too much power. But you're seeing when people get too much power, they don't know how to use it sometimes. So I don't want to see a situation happen when the student's acting up and the teacher, because he has too much power, thinks he can use that power and take a young student's life away.
So Marcus is suggesting that teachers may actually use the weapons against the students, right? Okay. Anybody think anything about that?
I think that teachers shouldn't, because even though they have the gun, it's supposed to make them feel safe. I don't think students are going to feel safer. So then there's going to be certain kids that's probably going to be like, if she has a gun, I'm going to bring a gun, just in case she tries to do something. Maybe like, I'll feel safer if I have my gun, because, and then it's just going to get out of hand.
So Javante, you are in agreement with Marcus.
So also on that note, not only putting all the blame on teachers, a student could also get riled up. There are students that go to schools that do have anger management problems, or are special needs kids that may not be aware of those and how to use them, because that's how school shootings happen. Kids aren't aware of the capacity that these weapons have. So let's say like a teacher tells a student, like, you have to be quiet, you're not listening to get riled up. They know, they're aware that the teacher has a gun and they know it. Like, you know, there's too many risks in that situation. We should probably just focus on other ways to make our school safer. So maybe have hall monitors, like not just one hall monitor, like maybe have one at each entrance. Sometimes it's very easy to get into a school. If a student is planning something, they could be an ally to whoever is trying to shut the school and literally go and open a door though. So maybe we should focus on more important things in the school than arming our students. Well, arming our teachers. Because that is a problem. So why do more guns?
Thank you, Richard. Other thoughts? This side's quiet. What are your thoughts? Guns? Well, how about this, just to throw out a debate? Pretend a teacher comes to the meeting, right? Stands at that podium and says, listen, I don't feel safe. A shooter comes into the building, I have a right to carry a gun to protect myself. What's the answer to that? And I should also mention, when the council's talking about their jobs, at every council meeting, there are city attorneys here. George Markopoulos, right there, George, raise your hand, is a city solicitor, means he's in charge of the attorneys. In the back room is Jim Lamana, he's a city attorney. So lots of times a question will come up, and the council is generally not supposed to give legal advice. They point to the solicitors and say, what do we do? So what do you do? Let's pretend on Mia's motion that a teacher, let's say a group of teachers came and said, we don't feel safe. We want to have our constitutional right to carry a gun into class.
It could get complicated, because if a teacher comes in, it's like, I have a right, it's my constitutional right. Then students would be like, so where's our rights? Maybe you should have the guns too. So then they just get like
So the students' rights count, but not the teachers' rights, is that what
I'm
you're saying?
saying, like, if the teachers say that, then the students are gonna say,
Right.
our rights count too. So
Right.
like, we all should have guns then.
So now everybody Any other thoughts on this? All right, let's pretend that the motion fails. Like, I don't, well, let me, is there anybody that feels that the teacher should have a right to bring a gun to class? All right, in that case, someone would make a motion to deny the motion, and it would probably fail. All right? So let's take it to the next step, that motion has failed. So, would we agree that in today's society that schools are not as safe as potentially they were 30 years ago? Would you agree with that? So let's say this. Pick on Councilor Fields. Bridget. So Bridget says, okay, you guys didn't like Mia's idea. I want metal detectors in every school. So she makes that motion, and it's seconded. So now that's on the floor. So now, you didn't like the idea of the teachers making the school safe. So Bridget has said, metal detectors. All right? So that's on the floor. What are your thoughts on that? Will the president point? Marcus, you're up, brother.
My thoughts on the metal detectors, I believe that's a wonderful idea because that prevents all the bringing in guns, and also metal kids. I work in a metal fabrication shop, so I know kids would try to hide things within metal, in the metal box, metal case. So metal hides don't smell. You can't see things through metal. You hide things easily through metal. So I thought the metal detector would be a wonderful idea.
So you're in favor of the motion, so you spoke in favor. Sorry, Madam President.
I'm also in favor of metal detectors because even if you have to come in earlier to be in line for the metal detector or leave a little later, it's worth finding someone with a gun or a dangerous weapon and stopping the situation before it happens. So
Taylor, right?
Yes.
You're in support of the metal detector. Other thoughts?
I think with the metal detectors, kids would actually be safer. Even if they're like, oh, that's weird, right? We have a metal detector, they think we're like delinquents with that. But if you really think about it, people will be safer because these hooligan kids, they just bring in knives, guns, anything that they want, like just because they can. But if you had metal detectors, people bring books. That's it.
You have a future. Other thoughts?
Also, me going to a vocational school, I learned to cross buildings, so there's easy access to the outside door to get guns while we're crossing buildings because I can easily cross the street and meet up with a parked car that's right in front of the park, right in front of Neptune Towers, and come back out. Lynn said there's a lot of access outside. You can walk down the street, you're outside, so the metal detector will stop a lot of that when you walk into the building because you won't be able to have anything on there.
So this is how this will go down. You ready? So let's say that 10 of you here, President 11, think that this is a great idea, right? Then somebody, one of them, would go like this. How much will it cost to install the metal detectors? Right? So then somebody throws out a number for every school. It's going to cost $100,000. Where will you come up with the money will be the next question, right? And then they have to be manned, right? Are you manning them? So someone's coming in with a gun, the metal detector goes off. Who's guarding that entrance? Right? So then it becomes a matter, and the council is constantly debating this. Where do you come up with the money for this great idea? And so, good idea, everybody seems to like it. And then it's how do you implement it? Where do you come up with the money and those types of things? And then it gets into, do you actually have to lay off somebody to fund this good idea? And that's where the council, a lot of time, spend their money, spend their time debating on trying to figure out how to pay for those kind of things, right? Any other thoughts on metal detectors? The last subject. So, marijuana. So, recreational marijuana use has been passed. So we really can't debate that because the voters have already decided it. But what the council is looking at now, and it's real reality, they are currently looking at this, is potentially there will be 8 stores in the city that will sell, not medicine marijuana, you're going with the prescription because your doctor has prescribed it, but this is recreational marijuana where people can go into the store and purchase recreational marijuana. I believe the age limit is 21. Right? And so, is it correct, Council, that there are potentially up to 8 places?
That's right.
Okay? So, so there's six new spots. So, councilors, you're all elected to represent the people of the city of Lynn. Where are we putting these spots? So, number one, do you have any good places where you want to put these? Secondly, do you have any places where they shouldn't go? So let's start with that. Is there any places that you don't want marijuana to be sold in the city?
Probably not next to like the YMCA in schools, because kids will try to like get a big idea of some type of stuff and like buy weed and bring it into the school.
Okay, so you would say, you would come up with some type of restriction, saying, let's bring Jim Lamont up for a second. So this is how this would go down. Jim is a lawyer, and he works for the city of Lynn, and he represents all of us. And so the question to you would be, as the president of the council, you would say something like, my favorite council has made a recommendation that we put a restriction on where the marijuana stores could go, and the restriction would be that it can't be near schools or a YMCA type of facility. What's the law surrounding it?
Recommendation from the state is 500 feet from schools. You could lower that or increase that if this part of the body believes there's merit to that.
So, is there a restriction on how far, like 500 feet is the state, right?
State recommendation.
So if we did 5,000 feet, is there a restriction on how far you can go?
That could be challenged as a means to use zoning to ban marijuana outright in the city.
Right. So my point on that is this, you ready? So there's X amount of schools in the city, from elementary to high school. You could come up with say a 10,000 square feet to any school, which means that they couldn't go anywhere. You know what I mean? So what you have done is you blocked marijuana from coming into the city, and what he is saying is you can't do that because it's illegal. So your point is valid, which is you don't want it in schools, and he is saying you can do that legally, 500 feet, maybe a little bit more.
Perhaps more. Every city is different. We have a lot of schools in the city of Lynn. There's smaller towns that just have one elementary and high school. They could probably do that a little bit more leeway than we would.
And what if one of the council said to you, I think this is horrible, and I don't want these stores in the city?
The voters in Lynn voted yes, so that the city of Lynn has no ability to do an outright ban. If the voters in 2016 had voted no, this honorable body would have the discretion to have an outright ban. But given that the voters in the city overwhelmingly approved recreational marijuana, this council is limited in their ability to restrict it.
Yeah, Council Walsh was just saying to me that some parts of the city have more schools than other parts of the city. Like up in Ward 1, Wyndham Square going towards Linfield have less schools than, say, Ward 4 in the Middlelands. So you could have an unbalanced system if you weren't careful with restrictions.
Some of the councilors would probably think it was unfair if, there was all schools in one area, and then somebody said, no, we're going to have a 500-foot zone area, so they don't get one of the marijuana dispensaries. But then, for example, Ward 6 might end up with them all, right? And that's probably unfair to his people or constituents, so they would spark some debate. Kind of think about that, how that affects it. And there's also revenue possibilities with this too. So a lot of the things that we're coming up with as a city with money is something we have to do here. How do we balance that out? And think about that. Is that money that could be used to pay for the metal tax? Right. So those are things you got to kind of think about a little bit when you debate it out.
Okay, I'm sorry, we'll go off a little bit. So the marijuana people are coming. Is it a good point? Not near the schools. Any other places where any other places where we do not want these marijuana places located in the city?
I think ultimately it doesn't matter where we put marijuana facilities, because people who want marijuana, they obviously voted yes, they're going to get it wherever it is that we place it. I do recommend that we don't purposefully put it in like private areas that where we see kids that do have a bright future, and we shouldn't influence or provoke them in a sense. We're making it easier to get it for them. So I'm not saying we should put it like by a church or anything, but I do think our intention shouldn't be in low-income areas in our city.
Good. I would like to second that because there's a lot of local income areas of Lynn. As you can see, there's plenty of places in West End, also in Eastland. And I feel like those will be the big targets for the businesses because they obviously know, as you can see in the tobacco products, that they obviously focus on low-income industry. So I believe the marijuana industry will be the same. So the low-income industry, low-income houses, a lot of them already use marijuana, so I'm pretty sure those ones are loaded. So they want, it's close to them, the little kids are going to get access to post stuff or just do anything they need to do to get it because little kids can get access the same way the adults can because obviously the guns work down, so the drugs work down as well.
In the audience, and any time that there is a council meeting, we always ask the audience if they want to speak in favor or against. So any of the students that are here today, any thoughts on marijuana? Did you say something, sir? Just kidding. Any thoughts on marijuana? Good, bad, or different? Okay. The last one that we had down here is somebody has made a motion that there's not enough youth activities in the city of Lynn. Okay? And so somebody has made a motion that we want to open up the junior high schools and high schools to offer youth activities. Okay? So that's the motion. Let's have a general discussion about that. In the audience. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Come up to the podium, sir. You are now on TV. You're about to be famous. Yes, sir.
Well, I feel like that's a great idea to add more youth programs throughout the middle schools and junior high schools because personally when I was in middle school, I felt like there wasn't that much for like kids in my middle school to do after school. So unless you were doing basketball or doing a club like science club or drama club or something like that, there wasn't really much else to do after school. So if you weren't involved in that, you was just left out like after school, just throughout whatever time your parents got home between whatever time you got out of school, just roam around and do whatever you want.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. So let's say we're in agreement, right? What type of programs do you think the city should offer?
I feel like they should try to implement more sports programs, but I also feel like they should kind of give out a survey to the kids to see what the kids want and see what the kids would like need, because you don't want to put something in and spend money and time putting something in that no one's going to be interested in. So you need to find out what the kids want, what the kids need, and what like they're really going to lean towards to really put in and like focus on.
I think that's a great idea. I think a lot of times my best ideas were not my ideas. You know, they came from people that said, "Why aren't we doing this?" So I think that's an awesome idea. Thank you. Okay, now it's open to any other in the audience before we go to the student council. Up to the podium. Please. Tell me your name and what school you go to.
I'm Susanna, I'm a kid.
Nice.
So, in middle school, I went to a charter school in Salem. We got out at 4 every day. So that left us less time to be out on the streets and less time for us to do whatever we wanted. I'm not saying to keep schools open until 4. I'm saying that if there was a time from, I think, most public schools they got at 2 until like 5 or 6, less children or like middle schoolers would be out in the streets and they would be somewhere safe rather than walking around the city where there's people who are selling drugs or giving them alcohol or they're doing that, like things that they shouldn't be doing. So like a youth program for middle schoolers especially and high schoolers, like freshmen and sophomores, because they're starting out school. If they had a program, they would be less likely to be out in the streets and rather than doing something productive that will help them with their future.
Great. Thank you so much. Anybody else in the audience want to chime in for this? Right here. Your name and the school, please.
in like an open gym at the schools that have a gym. So then I would offer more jobs for teens during the school year, and it would offer open gym to like elementary school and middle school students.
Great. Okay, now we go to the city council. Before I do that, so Lisa Nerrick is in the back of the room. She is in charge of all of the programs. So Lisa, raise your hand right there. So Lisa, you said you could do all these programs, right? So what Lisa just said, and you may not have seen it, is this, which means that it falls into that category of, I think everybody thinks this is a great idea. And a lot of what a city council does is they prioritize the budget, you know. So police and fire, public safety, education, etc. So I think a lot of the debate on something like this is to open up the schools. How much will that cost? But saying that, what are your thoughts on this subject? You think there's enough for kids to do these days?
No.
So let's hear it.
Growing up in Lynn, I've seen too many kids like go into jail, die, just like get caught up in stupid things because there's nothing to do after school. The youth in Lynn, you guys also, you know how the youth goes. You guys are also, if you guys grew up in Lynn, you also know how the youth is. There's nothing about Lynn, there's a lot of trouble in Lynn. I don't want the young kids to be involved trying to see that. Because that's how they get corrupt, that's how they get into drugs, get into prison and die. Because if you're not out doing what you have to do, you're out doing stupid things, getting in trouble. So, only great place that's going to get you back in prison, and you want to see Lynn succeed, you want to see Lynn decline, so I hope the kids get into back to school program.
So I agree in a sense, but also considering we do have a budget to be aware of. There are programs, like we're all here because we're all either like class officers or we're like very active in our schools. So we are aware of that. So I think the thing that we could do is maybe with the programs that we already have established. Personally, when I was in middle school and in high school, every time I got a survey in a class, sometimes the teacher wouldn't even care about it. They'd just say, like, fill it out really fast, we can do our schoolwork, or I wouldn't even care about it. So a survey, I don't think is the best solution. I think the best way to reach out to students is actually using students because we know each other, we're peers. I mean, sometimes, no offense, and I say this with a lot of respect, sometimes being in front of like a whole bunch of like people who have these names that you don't even necessarily know what they do, it's kind of just like saying like whatever like they're saying to me. So maybe instead we should just reform what we already have established. Like if you are in class office, like start talking to the students you barely even talk to. Like us who are here, like have a meeting once a month or something and be like, okay, so like have you guys reached out to any students to join like the science team? Have you reached out to any students to join like math team or drama club or like the Asian American club? Like there's so many clubs available already that we could just like grow. And within those clubs we could raise money to open a new gym for like elementary students and get jobs for teens. So I just think we should reform what we already have established considering we have a budget to be aware of.
Well, I'm a mentor at Project Yes. You all know what that program is. And it's for kids to basically we get them off the streets. Because like these kids nowadays, it's like they do whatever they want. They go roam around and walk around and do all this stuff. And they can be easily influenced. So like Project Yes, it helps them after school program. We teach them lessons, we have them do homework time, and we get time in the gym. I feel like we have more places like that, it would help. And also with the budget, we could do fundraisers, like sometimes we do open gym for like $5 or $2, but if you do it for like a good price, kids will come because it's like open gym. And then I think that the way we could reach out to people is like, maybe have a big assembly and the survey question, like who would like to do this? If you like to do that, check it off. Who would like to do this? If you like to do that, check it off. Probably pass it in and see how it goes.
Attorney Lamont, so earlier, Mr. Edwards brought up the concern about marijuana being too close to schools. So now we're being after-school programs. So I think it's true that the marijuana stores, whether we were for or against them, they're coming. And they will produce money, right, for the city?
6% of the gross revenues potentially.
Okay. So could Mr. Edwards or somebody else make a motion to say that to fund the after-school programs, whatever this group comes up with, they could take some of the money from the marijuana revenue and fund the after-school activities?
They could make a recommendation to the mayor to fund that. Ultimately, the mayor is the appropriating authority for budgetary purposes, but certainly there would be an appropriate motion to make for a recommendation to the mayor to earmark some of this money for some of the worthwhile projects you're talking about here.
And if the mayor said no, is that something that the body could veto?
The body could refuse to execute a host agreement with the marijuana facility, so that this body does have a say in how the host agreement is written. So if the mayor negotiates a host agreement that does not earmark money for after-school programs, this council would have the ability to reject that host agreement, essentially sending the mayor back to the retail marijuana establishment to negotiate something that would be acceptable to the city. So this council does have an ability to have a say how the money is spent. Absent an agreement with the mayor and the city council, there would be no retail establishment in the city, which may pose another legal problem. But hopefully the council and the mayor can come up to an understanding that works very well.
Thank you. And I bring that up because, I thought your idea about keeping it away from schools was a good one. And I bring it up because a lot of the times, somebody will come with a great idea, and the first question was, how do you pay for it? So I was trying to give an example as to a potential revenue source to support. So this is the city council chambers. Where you're sitting is where the audience sits, and then behind the railing is where the city council sits. So I'm going to call up some city councilors to come up here. Megan Turner, are you here? Aha, so councilor up here. So Terry down here will tell you where to sit.
That means you have to talk a lot.
And I can't read the penmanship, so we'll try this. So Council Vice President Buzzy Byer, Arena Richardson, did I say that right? Ariana, sorry. I couldn't read it, Ariana, sorry. Ariana will be Councilor Byer. Ward 4, Councilor Richard Calucci, Danielis Acosta. Ward 5 Councilor Diana Jakutis will be Jody Palumbo. Where's Jody? Come on down. Is Jody here?
Yeah. They're coming. They're the few that are missing.
Okay. Jody? Jody Palumbo. Okay. Come on over. The Council of Ward 7, Jay Walsh, will be Crystal Vega. Peter Capano, the Westland Ward 6 Councilor. Denilsa Espinal. The City Council President will come stand up next to me, Chanel Nelson. I messed up the name?
No.
Well, come on.
I was just about to sit down.
Oh, no, we won't allow you. The Ward 2 Councilor for Rick Starbuck will be Kayla Bagwood.
Oh, she's not here.
Okay. How about you? Will you fill in? Come on. That's what you get for talking. And what's your name?
Oh, Lauren.
Lauren, okay. You are the Ward 2 Councilor. Chanel, you are Darren's here. You're coming up here as Council President. Yep, sorry. Let's see. Council of Ward 1, filling in for Wayne Rosie, Lauren Gonzalez.
Oh, that's me.
Lauren? Okay, so I still need a Ward 2 council. Do I have a volunteer? Your Ward 2 council, sir? Come on up. Council Live, Brian Field, who's here, will be represented by Joshua Mateo. Joshua? From St. Mary's over here. Where is he? Councilor at Large,
Nope,
Pontiac, will be
you're gonna follow
represented
Terry
by
right over
Roland
there. Nope, you can go that way.
Alcindor.
Yeah, right all the way.
There it is. Okay, come on up. Okay. First name, sir.
Jay Wilson, Judge.
Okay, well, welcome, and good morning. Megan Campbell was here representing the mayor. She's Tom McGee's chief of staff.
Everybody?
That's Megan. Terry Young is here. She works with the city council. And over here is Rick Stabben and Brian Field, two city councilors. Did I miss anybody? So this is the Lynn City Council chambers. Where the audience is where the audience will come down. We're here at least twice a month, usually, sometimes more often. These are where the meetings happen. So the city councils, when I called you up, you were either a ward councilor, which means you represent a small part of the city, or you're a councilor at large, which means you represent the entire city. And so this is where the meeting happens. And so there's a council president that will be coming up here in a moment, but the meeting is very formal. And so I don't know if you learned about parliamentary procedure in school, but Robert's Rules of Order dictate how the meeting is run. And the reason why it's so formal is there's discussion that happens every council meeting, but you have to have order. You can't have Lauren yelling across the room at this person because he doesn't agree, and so there's just be chaos, right? And so it's very much a structured meeting, and we're going to go over it in a moment. We're going to have kind of a fake meeting so that you can see firsthand how it all works. But it's definitely orderly, and hopefully people are respectful. But so what we want to do before we have a fake meeting is to have two councils to come up and kind of talk about what their jobs are and how it's done. And then once they're done speaking, then we're going to talk about some issues that I think you can find entertaining. Okay? So first up, I wanted to introduce to you somebody that's been on the council for 7 terms, which is 14 years. He represents Ward 6, which is located in West Lynn, and his name is Peter Capano.
Thank you. Welcome, all. Just a couple things before we start. I just want to congratulate you all for being picked by your schools in the city as leaders in the city. You have your whole life in front of you. So whatever passion you have for whatever it is, for work, at home, make sure you follow your passion and your dreams, because life is shorter than you think. It might not seem like it right now, but take this time of your life, to pursue, ask questions, be curious, and pursue your passion. My name is Pete Capano from the Council of Ward 6. I represent people from over by Saugus, the bridge near GE, bordering the downtown area, in West Lynn, Food Commons, up to Pine Hill. There's 7 councilors and 4 at-large councilors. What we do is we have full-time jobs. A lot of people think that we work, councilors work full-time. At City Hall, we don't. We have full-time jobs during the day, and we try to get things done, in our spare time after work. We do everything from constituency services, if people have a street light out, lots of potholes right now because it's the end of the winter, people calling, we try to get those types of things done, branches falling on trees or tree trim. We do that type of nuts and bolts stuff. And we also have bigger issues that we work on with the rest of the city council. Recently, we did an ordinance for wage theft that would require employers to pay their employees fairly. We've been working on marijuana issues. In my particular ward, we have empty, abandoned railroad tracks. They've been abandoned for years and years. We're trying to get a bike trail through there. We've had some success with that. We have flooding issues that we're working on with Lynn Water and Sewer and others to try and find some relief for people with flooding. And a whole variety. We have the Lynn Way, also the waterfront, which we're trying to work on development. So I want to hand it over to Jay Walsh. Jay Walsh is a councilor of Ward 7. and take it up.
Thanks, Pete. One of the things that I wanted to mention about council here is a lot of the debate that you see on TV or in this room is only a small part of what actually happens in the committee rooms here. We have committee meetings for different things like licensing committee. I happen to be the chair of that. We look at licensing for businesses, whether it's flammable permits, auto bodies, a whole bunch of issues and things that would come up with that, whether the neighbors want that particular license issued to a business. So a lot of the debate that happens with the councilors happen in the committee rooms. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of time spent working on those issues. So it's not just about what you see on TV here, how we sit down and take the vote. There's a lot of time spent. What Councilor Capano was mentioning about a daytime job versus the job we have here, the thing that I think people forget is trying to have time for our family also. It's really hard to be in a lot of spots at once and trying to be at all the events and things that people want you to be at and debates, and we have to try to balance that out. The area that I represent is from the Walnut Street area of Saugus all the way over to the Market Basket. Peter's area is very similar to my area. There's a lot of overlap. The flooding is an issue. We have the river back there that overflowed the last storm. A lot of people lost a lot of things there. So there's been a debate with that about how do we fix that, how do we appropriate money. You know, is there enough people affected to appropriate the money? So there's a lot of things that we talk about on a daily basis. Peter and I actually work together too at the same place. So we have debate even at our regular job that happens, good and bad, I guess, sometimes. So, but it's a great job and it's an honor to be here at this spot. And it's a good thing to have people look up to you and say, hey, you know, he represents us and, you know, we believe in that. So I want to welcome everybody and just keep that in mind as you go on the debates today. Okay, thank you.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to have a mock debate. So just a few things I want to say about that, and we'll hand it over to you. Jim and the council president here will moderate the debate. Just a few things like was said earlier by Jim Cowbell is we try to have civil discourse, you know, so there's no question that is too stupid. There's no, you know, you have to, if you have passion for an issue, you can feel strong about it, but we respect each other's opinions. There's a lot of issues on the council where a lot of us have disagreements, but 99.9% of the time we leave shaking hands and starting over, ready for the next issue. So when you do have passion for an issue, it is easier because things just flow a lot easier. If you get lost, just some advice that I gave to the previous group that, you know, has worked for me for years is always think about the who, what, where, when, and how. You know, what is it we're talking about? Where is it that we're talking about? Who is involved? How does this affect me? Those type of questions will help you during your debate. So the first topic that you're going to debate here is youth activity. Is there enough youth activity in the city? Should the schools be opened up at night? That sort of thing. So I'm going to hand it over to Jim Cowbell here, and good luck. Have a great time. I want to congratulate you all again, and it's an honor for me to be here with you all. Thank you.
Okay, as Peter said, we're going to have a debate. And so before we get going, I'm just going to quickly hit each one, just your first name and what school that you go to.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I go to St. Mary's, and I think that we have a lot of extracurricular activities after school at my school. Like I partake in cross country, which is great, and there's no one who gets cut. Like I like how everyone, if you try out, you become on the team. And there's a lot of other things you can do with this club, like there's the robotics club, and I feel like there's so many things you can join that no one's left out. And that's a good way to give people activities to after school, so instead of going home and playing games on their phones or video games, it's a good way to get active in the community. Especially with volunteering, like this past weekend I did Hunger for Justice with my school. And it was a great chance to go into Boston and help out with the community and meet people from different areas. So I think they do a good job with that.
Great. hold off on your comments on the question. Just give you your name and your school, but that's okay. Well, everything you said is very important, so just your name and your school.
I'm Jonathan Taylor, I'm in the same area as well.
Same here, thanks.
My name is Jody Colombo and I go to Lynn Classical.
Thanks.
My name is Ariana Richardson and I go to Lynn English.
My name is Crystal Bacon and I go to Lynn Classical.
I'm Megan and I go to Lynn English.
I'm Denalise, I go to Lynn English.
I'm Josh, I go to Lynn Tech.
My name is Rhoda and I go to Lynn Classical.
My name is Nelson and I go to Lynn Tech.
And before we begin, no matter what school you go to, kid, St. Mary's, Lynn Tech, the best school in the city, Lynn Classical, I'm biased. No, wherever you're from, when you go out into the world, right, if you're heading on to your next chapter in life, remember what a great city this is. Because we hear, people that don't live here, they always take shots at the city, and it's a great city, right? You know that, we know that. And so always defend Lynn, talk about your pride in the city and in the school that you go to. Take that with you forever. So Lauren, you're already on the record as being in favor. So this is our new council president. So we talked about order and so forth. So if you want to speak on the subject, just all you have to do this, she will recognize you. If she doesn't recognize you, you can't speak. So that's the way it works. She is now the boss. And so the question is after school programs. So the first question is, do you think that the kids in the city of Lynn have enough to do? And if not, do you think that it would be a good idea to have after school programs offered in the Lynn schools? So that's what's before us. Who has an opinion?
I go to Lynn Tech and we have plenty of clubs for all kinds of people. We have athletic clubs. We have even have like a Dungeons and Dragons club.
Any Dungeons and Dragons fans here? No? All right, keep going, Joseph.
I'm not a Dungeons and Dragons fan, but if there are people, they have a club for that. Pretty sure they have art club, just all kinds of clubs. And so I think our school is pretty good when it comes to stuff like that.
So do you think that there's enough, let's take it this way. Do you think that there's enough activities for the kids in the city of Lynn today?
I think there's more than enough.
More than enough? Okay.
Yeah. I think some just don't want to take it.
Cool. So what would happen, Josh, is, let's say that Lauren, I'll just use you as an example. Let's say that she has made a motion, and it's a formal motion, okay? And if it passes, then it's a formal body, all right? So Lauren has made the motion. She doesn't feel that there's enough for the kids in the city of Lynn to do, so she wants to open up the schools and offer more programs for the city. Okay, so that would be her motion, all right? Now you're saying, I think there's enough, right? So you're really saying, I don't agree with that motion. Yeah, right, okay. So that's the formation of the debate. So we have Lauren saying we need more for the kids of the city of Lynn. Josh is saying no. What's the rest of the body feel?
I'm from Lynn English. I think that there's plenty for kids to do after school. I just think that there's a lack of encouragement for the kids to do it, and also a lack of attention for certain programs. So instead of like creating more, I think it's like about building and paying more attention to the ones that already exist and encouraging kids to join them.
So you're saying there is enough, right?
Yeah.
Great. Other thoughts?
Like looking at my own personal schedule, I've never had nothing to do. So I think there's definitely plenty of programs, but my issue is just what type of programs we're actually offering. As someone who is majoring in computer science, I feel like I have little to no background information in what I'm actually going for. So I think it puts a lot more pressure, especially on kids who want to pursue technological interests, to really undertake that on their own, and that itself is a very daunting task. And I think especially living in an age where computers, 3D printers, and all this new technology is coming faster, it's coming cheaper, I think we should jump on the bandwagon and definitely have more programs involved in what the future actually holds.
Okay. Other thoughts?
So a little kind of piggybacking off what she said, I feel like there's a lot of attention towards like sports, and those are kind of the ones that get encouraged a lot. And I know a lot of students that really aren't really interested in like physical, but more like mental things like computers and things like that. So I feel like if we had just a little bit more inclusivity with programs for them, and kind of like push, as much as we push our sports, we should push them as well, like more clubs for the ones who do like technological things.
Well, since we go for Lynn Tech, we have technical programs and stuff like that. We also have like computer classes, like clubs after school, and we also have like computer web development as a shop and programs like that. So it's like, at least at Lynn Tech, we're more like with sports and stuff like that, just because we get all that throughout the day. And then also we have like co-op, which we go and work and like endless stuff that we would like to do in the future, like with college and stuff. So that's why we're a little bit more like towards like sports and different types of activities, just because we get like computer web development, pre-engineering, and programs like that. So I think there's plenty for like students to do after school.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Actually, I totally admire what Tech is doing. I think it's fantastic. Some of my friends are involved in like the robotics team, and I think that's just absolutely amazing. But again, my problem is that Tech is a small portion of the city, and unfortunately, I think it goes the same with classical, that English and classical don't really have that many programs, if any, and it really is a limited opportunity that I think should be expanded to all students.
Okay, so let's say that this was a real council meeting. The councils are elected and they represent the city, right? But now there's, say, 30 citizens that have come to the meeting, right? So at some point the council is going to want their input. So in the back of the room there's somebody dying to speak. So you would stand up, you would state, all you have to do here is give your first, you'd actually come up to the podium here and give your first name and the school, and then just tell us what you think. Come on up. It's a friendly crowd. So this is what would happen. This would be a resident that would speak on the subject. So if you could just give your first name and the school that you're with.
Hi. My name is Mercedes. I go to KIPP, and my freshman year I actually went to classic when I transferred to get my sophomore year. And I feel like this is something I've even tried reaching out to like y'all. I mean, I don't know if you were here when I typed it in, whatever. So basically, I feel like that it shouldn't just be based on what school you go to. Like, let's say, like, for example, you're into computer. You do not go to Tech, right? I feel like if there is a robotics team at Tech, that she should be allowed to like go to that, like attend that. It's not just exclusive for that. Like personally, I play violin and I tried to stay in the Lynn orchestra, and means that I could not because I attend KIPP, and KIPP was its own organization. But it's the Lynn Ensemble Orchestra, and I am still a citizen of Lynn. So I personally felt that it was unfair that because I went to a different school, I wasn't allowed to be part of the orchestra.
Gotcha. Okay, so we would duly note those comments. Is there anybody else in the audience that wants to speak on the after-school programs for the kids? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium, state your first name and the school you're with.
Hello, my name is Saray. I'm from Classical. I think the issue about the after-school program is doing quite well, but it's just not getting enough attention. Like, for example, yeah, we do have plenty of after-school activity, ethnic clubs, African-American clubs, Asian American clubs, computer clubs, and even event clubs. But the participation level and outreach and the mentorship for each leader that manages each club is not well thought out. Usually it's passed on from skills from previous students who have tried really hard to get the participation level up and about. But I think participation level is quite lacking in that sort of chance. And in a way, we should more outreach to more students in our schools and empower those programs. Sports programs are doing absolutely well. And it's great to see that people are doing physical activities, but not enough more towards, say, skill-oriented clubs. Medical clubs, computer clubs, anything of this profession. And I think this is what we need to focus more on.
Great. Thank you, sir. Okay, anybody else in the audience? Anyone else in the audience? Ooh, late lieutenant. Come on up.
So my name is Kimberly Lee and I'm from St. Mary's. I feel like my school lacks a lot of clubs. I feel like one of the most important clubs that we should have is the LBGT Community Club, because although we are a Catholic school, we got to remember that not everybody is the same, that we are all a community regardless of where we come from and where we are and what we believe in. We should still be open-minded towards other people. And I feel like St. Mary's emphasizes too much on sports. Half the kids that get a lot of scholarships are the kids that play sports. We should really think about the kids in the robotics team or in the theater club that puts so much effort and time, yet doesn't get that much of attention. And I feel like there should be many more clubs, because I feel like we do lack clubs and we don't have enough. Like there isn't even like an art club that I can join. So.
Great, thank you so much. President, did you have any comments?
Yeah. I think that there are clubs in the Lynn school community, but there aren't enough content like inside the clubs. Like there are clubs, but it's lacking originality. Like they're not getting the students interested enough to join those clubs. Like sports are all like hyped up, and everyone wants to join the sports team because they see all the glory and all the teamwork and all everything, like the joy they get from participating. But there are clubs where teachers or advisors go in and they literally just sit there for an hour talking and not doing stuff related to that club. So I think that there should be like content to get them like going, engage them in that club, and like get them more interested in the club so there are more participants in those clubs.
So what would happen after we read from the audience, after everybody had their piece? We would actually do a roll call. So we'll do a pretend roll call, all right? So I'm going to call your name. So in this example, Lauren has made a motion that the city provide more after-school programs for the kids of the city of Lynn. So I'm going to call your name, and you're going to either say yes if you think that there should be more after-school programs, or you're going to say no. Those are your only two choices. Okay. So, Councilor Turner.
Yes.
Councilor Richardson.
Yes.
Councilor Costa.
Yes.
Councilor Palumbo.
Yes.
Councilor Vega.
Yes.
Councilor Espinal.
No.
Councilor Nelson.
Yes.
Councilor Josh.
No.
Councilor Gonzalez.
No.
Councilor Mateo.
Yes.
Councilor Alcindor.
No.
So then the clerk would tell us the tally. What is the tally?
7 yes, 4 no.
So 7 yes, 4 no, the motion would pass. Okay, so that's an example of somebody bringing forth something, a debate, and then a vote. Okay, so now we'll go to the next subject. Sorry? You got a question? I'm sorry? Yeah, so the motion that just passed was that the city shall offer more after-school programs for the kids.
Ah, okay.
So that passed 7. So the next subject is this. Everybody is aware of what happened in Florida with the school shooting, right? So, Josh, I'll pick you. Josh has put forth a council order saying he wants to protect the kids of the city of Lynn, and he wants the teachers to be armed. Teachers shall have weapons on them. And so that is what is before us today. And Josh, I shouldn't say. Walter and Angelina, I say it wrong? Angelina Delis from Lynn Classical Media is filming this, so everybody will be on TV. So thank you to Classical for doing that. So Josh, I should say, I picked this for you. It's not necessarily what you believe, but we're just trying to generate some discussion. So Josh has made forth a motion that the teachers in Lynn, whether it's St. Mary's or Classical or wherever, shall have weapons on them to protect themselves and the students. Not controversial at all. So that's it. So let's start with the audience. Anybody have any feelings about the teachers carrying guns to class? For or against?
I'm against teachers carrying guns to school. First, say there's better ways to approach that idea. Instead of trying to arm teachers with weapons and say pistols, if out of anger they can use it against your students, or you can also approach it as in buying barricades. I've seen conventions where they try to build barricades to block the door in case of emergency or lockdown. And I think that's a more approachable way to put it, a more advanced door stopper, for example. And yeah, I don't think guns should be given to teachers out of anger, and they would have to go more through thorough training and more tighter ways to get guns. Because having somebody come in with a gun isn't really as safe than, say, a random person coming into the school with a weapon who can cause a mass shooting. Because this is putting more people in danger.
Do you think, let me just ask you a question, do you think that by having teachers carry guns, that it's somehow infringing upon the students' rights?
Yes. But it infringes upon the students' rights if the teacher is armed, if the students might take it the wrong way and say the teacher is really mad at them. They could approach the student the wrong way, the student might become defensive if they were to reach into their pocket for their guns, and the student might have to take offensive actions. I know people who will be aggressive in that chance and will take it upon themselves to defend a teacher in emotion.
Great, thank you. Thank you. So, before I get to, and I know that there's several people who want to speak, at some point the city council may bring one of the city lawyers to the podium. So, Mr. Lamana is the city solicitor. If you could come forward, the chair has a question for you. So the gentleman who just spoke said that he felt that it would be an infringement upon the rights of the students by having teachers in it. And I want to ask you a question and say, what's the city's position when a teacher says that she has a legal, or he has a legal right to carry a weapon into class?
State and federal law has been pretty consistent. We have reasonable regulations on the use of guns and when you're able to possess weapons have been upheld. The Second Amendment does give individuals a right to bear arms, but it's well settled that a governmental entity can make reasonable regulations with respect to the time, place, and manner of carrying weapons.
Great. And thank you. And the reason why I brought it in there, I just wanted to show an example. At a real council meeting, legal questions happen all the time, and there's always a lawyer in the meeting. So somebody had a hand up. Yeah, come on up. Give us your opinion on the subject.
Hi, I'm Megan. I go to Lynn Tech, and I'm against teachers being armed. The main reason is because when there is a shooter in the building, a teacher's main priority should be getting the students somewhere safe and not trying to find the shooter and gun them down. And I also think that there would be an issue with taxes because people already complain about getting teachers' books and tissues for the classroom, and I think that like a couple months in, people would start complaining about paying for teachers' guns and training as well.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience want to speak on the subject? Please come to the podium, state the first name of the school that you're at.
My name is Corey from GG Academy. I'm against teacher having weapons on them in school because I feel that doesn't add to the safety of the students. As a whole, it just creates more catastrophe. I know that not all students have the best relationship with their teachers, and in that case, that such student doesn't feel safe knowing that the teacher has a weapon. And also, we all deal with different personal issues and stuff. A teacher may not be in the right state of mind at a particular time. And the teacher may just bring down the weapon and use it in the wrong way. And just to prevent something like that, having a weapon is not the right approach to such things. Previous speakers have said, there's better ways to approach situations like that instead of having a weapon, just because in case of emotional states or just the relationship between the teacher and the student, or just feeling safe as a whole.
Thank you. One more? Yep. Yeah. First name and what school?
Hey, I'm Jonathan and I go to KIP. I think that it's like really sad that we're actually focusing on how to like deal with school shooters when they're like in the school. Instead of dealing with school shooters in the school, we should learn how to prevent them before they come into the school. So adding more mental health counseling and more things in order to prevent school shooters instead of like trying to find a way to stop school shooters when they're in the school.
Great, thank you so much. So then we're going to turn it over to the council. So in this example, Josh has made the motion that teachers be able to arm themselves. So now the council will debate, the council president will recognize you. Anybody want to speak on the subject?
Go ahead. Hi. When you go to a school that's primarily students of color, which are the primary suspects of gun violence, adding more guns to the school isn't helping anybody. You're making it more unsafe. Teachers were trained to educate the youth, not to form a military.
Also, when it comes to arming teachers with guns, that's going to cost a lot of money, and we have better things to focus on when it comes to our school, like new books, or maybe finding locks that actually lock in our schools. So maybe focusing funds on things that actually matter that can benefit the students rather than arming teachers, which adds layers of stress to them, and they already have a whole bunch of students that they care for when it comes to education-wise. I think that we should focus our money on something different and not arm teachers. So.
Great. Other comments?
No, go ahead. Yeah, I totally agree with what everyone has said to this point. I think arming teachers definitely introduces too much unnecessary risk. But I do think programs like ALICE, teaching basic self-defense, is useful to both the students and the teachers. If that was a possibility, something that's reasonable, I think that should definitely be implemented. But I think, again, we should be focusing on preventing rather than dealing at the time. If you look at the past school shooters, some of the worst shootings, we can see that the shooters themselves have been diagnosed with sociopaths or psychopaths. And what that means is that these people lack empathy. And I think we can all agree that simple peer mediation, simple counselors can't resolve that issue. That needs a certified therapist, that needs medicine in order to overcome that. And I think we need to focus more on those mental health services, deal with bipolar disorder, depression, any compulsive behavior. I feel like we're too quick to just suspend or expel and wipe our hands of the problem. I think we really need to get to the heart of it and give these kids the help they need before it turns into a tragedy.
Do you think, but let's say we're in agreement, do you think that a city is obligated to provide safety for the students?
Absolutely.
And so what I'm hearing you say is that we're obligated, yet arming the teachers is not the answer.
No, I think the risk outweighs any benefit. Maybe it would be a great thing to implement, but I think thinking about it, what is the prospective outcome? It's too chancy.
Yep. So let's say in this debate, just a show of hands, how many people think, and just the councils here, how many people think it's a good idea to arm the teachers? So that motion would fail. Sometimes though, somebody will say, Josh had a good idea, protecting, but a bad solution. So then another idea comes up. And it would be something like, I'll pick on Mara again. Mara would say, arming the teachers isn't the answer, but putting metal detectors on every school will absolutely guarantee that weapons aren't coming in. So then a separate motion comes up, and so let's pretend that Lyon's made that, somebody seconded that. So now we're talking metal detectors in every school. For or against it? And that's what we got. Good idea, bad idea? Mara, good idea, bad idea?
I don't think any harm could come from it, so I think it'd be potentially a good idea, but it could have students needed with class if they're line to go through the metal detector. So there's the pros and cons to that would have to be discussed.
Yep. Other thoughts?
Yeah, I think it would be better to be safe than sorry. Like some students, they may feel judged or whatever, but the reality is that it happens.
Thank you for that. Anybody else?
I don't like the idea personally. I think it makes school feel too much like a prison. I think that when I go into school, I want to feel safe, and I understand that it's a safety precaution, but I believe that other things like, well, we're talking about in the other chamber, how like having IDs that can swipe you into the school is a more effective way of like making sure the people who are in the school are safe. But like to walk into school every day to like have to go through a metal detector, and I don't think I feel comfortable with that.
I think it's something else. It's unnecessary and expensive. I know we discussed earlier that a lot of the doors are usually open. So implementing metal detectors would mean putting them all over the school at every entrance. And again, if someone's really unstable enough, anything can become a weapon even within the school. Simple everyday objects, anything with powders. You obviously have to follow the same like TSA regulations in order to eliminate every possible weapon. I think that's unrealistic. So I think even trying that approach is half-hearted and it would be better off avoided.
Any other councils? What would happen is this. So Lauren would make that motion. Let's pretend for a moment that at least the majority, say 6, think that it's a good idea. Then what would happen is this is all, these councils will tell you this. Every good idea costs something, usually, right? And so the next question is, you've got X amount of schools. You're going to put metal detectors in every school. So the cost is $200,000, right? And then if you're going down that path, so now you have metal detectors and somehow these councils have found the money for it. So then you have to man them, right? So some kid walks in, the metal detector goes off. Is there a police officer there? Who's manning that? And then who's paying for that? So in this chamber, a lot of times it's a matter of priority for a budgetary priority for the councils. Is it a good idea? Let's say yes. Then how do you pay for it? So I just want to bring that up. The last one, recreational marijuana. So it is coming to the city of Lynn. And so the council right now is debating this issue. And so the voters have already voted on whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea. And so the city of Lynn voted yes, that they wanted recreational marijuana in the city of Lynn. So the council right now is debating on 6 locations in the city of Lynn. So in the near future, there will be recreational marijuana in the city of Lynn. So the question is this. Is there any place in the city, and it's not are you for recreational marijuana or against, because the voters have already answered that question, so now that's been settled. Is there any place in the city of Lynn where you would not want a recreational marijuana store to locate? And that's the debate before this honorable body. Anybody have any thoughts?
Definitely not near any of the schools. And I think overall we just don't push the negative effects of marijuana. I know some people use it for anxiety, and I think that's great that they have found a good solution to treat that. But we neglect the fact that it actually slows your brain function. And everything you process is slower, decision making is impaired, and having that right next to school, the crucial stage of development where brains are just learning to function near the adult level can have some serious impacts. So I think separating that from school learning areas is crucial.
Okay, so then what would happen is Attorney Lamana would ask him to come up. What was your first name?
Megan.
Megan. Councilor Megan has made a recommendation which sounds like it's a good idea, which is not to locate a recreational marijuana store near a school.
The state has come up with regulations that recommend cities separate recreational marijuana from the school by 500 feet. They have given each city council the opportunity to reduce that, eliminate that, or increase that. depending upon the unique needs of the city. I will say that I believe there's approximately 30 schools in the city of Lynn, if you count private schools, Kent Academy. There are small towns like Marblehead that may have one high school, one junior high school, one elementary school, which would facilitate the location of marijuana facilities just because they're not handcuffed by the number of schools. So something that they keep in mind, because if you do choose a figure whether it's 500 feet or 1,000 feet that effectively blocks marijuana facilities from opening in the city, that would probably be struck down by a court. The voters in Lynn voted 17,000 to 15,000 in favor of marijuana, and that means that this body does not have the power to outlaw and restrict recreational marijuana here within the city.
So let's say Megan feels that 500 feet, which is the state law, isn't enough. Could the city council in its wisdom make it, say, 1,000 feet from the school?
They could. Special Services has put together drafts of 500 feet, 300 feet, 200 feet, and 1,000 feet. 1,000 feet would probably block out the majority of the city of Lynn. There would not be locations, certainly not 6 locations that would be viable. So I would anticipate a court challenge to any attempt to go significantly higher than 500 feet.
And the last legal question. Let's say, let's say Lauren in Ward 1 says, I understand that the voters passed this. I do not want it in Ward 1. Is that a legal position to take?
If an applicant came before this council and asked for a special permit in Ward 1 and it was denied with no legitimate basis based on safety, security, traffic, they would have an avenue to go to court and challenge the denial of the special permit. And in all likelihood, absent some valid reasons offered by this council, the special permit would be granted judicially by the court.
Thank you. And to the city council over there, a quick question. So these stores are coming, right? Is there any revenue that these stores will produce for the city of Lynn? And how is it? 6%. So I wanted to bring that point up because whether you're for it or against it, these stores are coming and it's going to produce revenue. So one of the things that could happen is the city council could say, I want to take X amount of those dollars and fund after-school programs or whatever, you know. So the council is always looking for revenue to support programs and projects that are important to the city of Lynn. So on the subject of marijuana, is there any, making a good point about the schools, is there any other places in the city that it shouldn't go?
After-school programs where kids are, say, for example, Greg House, YMCA, place like that, basically. I think that'll be a terrible spot to put it.
So you would, Joshua, you would amend Megan's idea. So she's saying X amount of feet from the school, and then you would say, in addition to the schools, those types of agencies that you just mentioned, right? Good.
I don't think it really would matter where it went because no matter where you go, you could get it from anyone, even if it's not the store.
Great.
I have to agree with Josh that it is a good idea to put an X amount of feet away from the school, but in the end, if a student would like to purchase it, there's many ways they can get it, so it doesn't matter where it's located. It just matters that it is located in the city of Lynn, and you will have access to it no matter what.
Good.
I agree that it doesn't matter where it's located, but not for the same reasons. The corner store that everyone goes to and walks past sells tobacco, so like it doesn't, you know. But yeah.
So the only restriction is age, right? 21 years old. Right.
Very good. So welcome here. As I know you're going to fill in the roles here with the school committee, but there's 2 key people here right now. Actually 3 key people. Tommy Arabino, who was one of the key players on, raise your hand, Tom, one of the key players that helps us get through the school committee meetings, works with the school committee, the superintendent, deputy superintendent, and the mayor to make sure we're organized, ready. Any issues that are of consequence in the schools, Tom is the go-to guy, and Superintendent Latham and Deputy Superintendent Tetweiler, who are here with us. We meet Thursdays, every other Thursday. There's 7 of us at the meeting, and we deal with the issues of the day, curriculum, approving decisions that we make jointly and recommendations to the superintendent. And what we're in the middle of right now is we're losing our superintendent, as you heard downstairs. She's retiring after such a great career in the community as a teacher and as an administrator, as a superintendent. It's a big loss. So we're in the middle right now. The school committee's in the middle of the process of hiring a new superintendent that will be the next leader for the schools. So that's one of the key pieces that we do. And I actually met with the superintendent yesterday to talk about the budget. Another key piece of what we'll be doing, and we're hoping to do that early this year, and the school committee and I, working with the administration, will prepare a budget. We'll approve a budget to fund the schools for this coming year. That's budget is over a $200 million budget when you look at it in terms of investment we're making in the schools, in terms of the dollars come from the state and the city. So that's a little bit about what we do, and hopefully you'll get to talk about things today that are important to you, issues that are important to the city and the schools. And I think the reality is you have a better perspective than all of us here every day sitting in the schools, understand what's happening and what you think should be happening in a better way. So hopefully that'll be part of the discussion. I'd like to ask my colleagues on the school committee to say a few words, and then we're going to let you all jump right in and participate in an interactive discussion on, and hopefully get a feel for what we do every meeting at the school committee, as well as outside of the meetings. Lorraine Gately.
Hi, I'm Lorraine Gately. I'm on the school committee. I represent you, and a lot of these helped me with my campaign, and I want to thank you for that. On the committee, my major role is to be on a subcommittee, and so I'm on 3 subcommittees. I'm on the Building and Grounds subcommittee, so if there's something that's come to our attention, Tom Arabino is our secretary, usually lets us know and keeps us informed of what's going on in our schools with the buildings. So when you're sitting in a room that's really cold or something's happening in your school, Dr. Latham is notified by your principal, and then that principal will, then Dr. Latham usually goes down to the school and checks out the situation. And Mr. Arabino, Tom Arabino, lets us know what's going on wherever we are in the city, and a lot of these from St. Mary's know I'm sitting in that C26 room. Another one, curriculum, is the other subcommittee that I'm on. The curriculum subcommittee, basically, I overview and I watch over. I like to say I watch like a hawk to make sure I grade, like our scores stay where they are or they get higher, and we're looking into making the curriculum better for you to be successful when you go out into the world, whatever you want to do. If you want to go to colleges, you can go to college. If you want to go into the workforce, you go into the workforce. But you will be prepared. And then the last one that I'm on, hold on, is the Personnel Subcommittee. The Personnel Subcommittee, we discuss job postings, like we had to discuss the posting for the superintendent, and we had to vote on that. We're getting a new social emotional learner supervisor to bridge the gap between what a school counselor does to what a social worker would do, and they mix them together so all your needs are being met. And that's about it. We work together, we communicate, we don't always agree, but we do get our jobs done. And it's a pleasure to serve you, and that's what we do. I serve my constituents. So you remember this when you're getting out there in the world. You can turn around and you can say, I'm going to pick up the phone, I'm going to talk to Lorraine Gately, I'm going to talk to Mike Satterwhite, I'm going to tell them how I feel, and then our job is to go ahead and communicate with the superintendent or communicate with people in the schools to make sure things are getting done so that we improve our city.
Thanks, Lorraine.
Mike Satterwhite.
Thank you. I'm newly elected. We had 2 school committee members retire the last election, and I'm at my 3rd month on the school committee. As discussed, Tom is the confidential secretary for the school committee, and he's the one with all the information. So when a parent reaches out to us, which happens very often, our cell phone numbers, email addresses are posted online, so they reach out and they'll ask us questions. We'll normally go to Tom for an answer to get back to the parents. So It's fun interacting with the population. And it's fun trying to get things done for you guys. It's a very important job. We have 26 schools, almost 16,000 students. We have a huge budget. We're one of the largest school districts in the state, so people look heavily on us, and we're an urban school district. So we have many good characteristics that make us special, and I think that we feel to recognize that as citizens of Lynn. But we have a special school district. We have special students, and that's a good thing. Like Lorraine said, we have subcommittees, and typically members of the school committee are on those subcommittees. I'm on the grant subcommittee, personnel subcommittee, and the negotiation subcommittee. I'm the chairperson for negotiations, and what that means is we negotiate the union contracts with the teachers and the professionals in the public schools. So it's interesting learning that aspect, because you see teachers come in to work, but they're protected by the union that represents them, and so they negotiate with the school committee for certain benefits and rights and whatnot. It's been a pleasure representing you guys. I've been to almost every school, I've spoken a few classrooms, and it's great to get the feedback from you because, again, like the mayor said, you're living in it. And if you want, some of you might be graduating soon, but don't forget there are students behind you. So have your voices heard today so those students behind you can have a better education. So don't be shy, speak up, and understand that you do matter, every single one of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here.
So let me tell you something about our roles. If you've ever watched one of the school committee events on television, you see the school committee, and then as part of the table, there's myself, the school attorney, the Lynn School Committee attorney. Then there's my two deputy superintendents, Dr. Tutwiler and Ms. Kimberly Powers, and our school business manager, Kevin McHugh. And they all sit at the table. And we often speak, and we often explain things to the school committee. However, we are without a vote. So if a vote comes, we can't say anything. We can try and present our position. This is what I'd like to do. This is why I think it would be a good deal. And this is why I think we should do it. But ultimately, in the end, it's up to the school committee and the mayor as the chair of the Lynn School Committee. It's up to them to vote. And unfortunately, we don't get a vote. So it's an interesting dynamic that goes on. So I may or may not get exactly what I want all the time, but they're pretty good to work with. So it's really an interesting thing. And it's the same in every city. The school committee votes. They vote on policy. And the superintendent presents, the deputy superintendent presents, but we don't have a vote at the table. So it's interesting. And the mayor was right. The number one job of the Lynn School Committee, as is every school committee, is to select the superintendent, which they are involved with. It's a big responsibility. So thanks.
Okay, good morning. I'm John Merriby, that was introduced earlier, and I'm the secretary of the school committee. I work for the school committee as a contractor, and I work for the superintendent of schools. Kind of like the liaison. Okay, there's so many things that these people are, these elected officials, it's not their full-time job. There are full-time jobs and professions, so I'm kind of their intermediary to have communication with and for the community, through nonprofits, through the superintendent of schools, and anything around the city that has to do with media relations, news stories, and things of that nature. So I keep the school committee informed, okay? And what I want to briefly do before we get into a discussion here is give you a sense how city government here, much like the United States, you have a legislative branch, a judicial branch, and an executive branch. In Lynn, the city council is the legislative branch, the mayor is the executive branch. The school committee, by the nature of policy making, serves as elected officials who do not get paid. All right, as Michael Sadowite said, we have about 16,400 students, 18 elementary schools, 4 high schools, 3 middle schools. And our biggest issue today, aside from educating children, is space, giving you kids the accommodations that you're entitled to and so richly deserve. The school committee, by state legislation, is a policy-making body. The superintendent of schools and the school administration are the management group that are directed by that policy-making group, which you folks are going to be today. An example of that would be the school committee hires the superintendent of schools, the school committee hires nurses, the school business manager, the school committee hires a doctor, the school committee hires a director of special education, and that's pretty much it. Other than that, the superintendent of schools is then the hiring authority, all the way down into the school buildings. Principals hire teachers, principal hires staff, superintendent hires principals. The policy-making piece of this is, for example, the school committee's main function, aside from that, within the frame of policy-making, is a school budget. They may have mentioned the city of Lynn gives the school department $200 million a year, of which $149 million are sent into schools themselves. It's staffing, it's administration, it's textbooks, it's buildings, and all that said. The city side provides capital spending and things of that nature, which are so critical to us right now. Okay. In terms of the school committee's other roles, the policy-making piece, personnel. Lorraine mentioned personnel subcommittee, finance subcommittee, building and ground subcommittee. These are all under the purview of the school committee. Today, we're having this mock meeting. The contemporary issue today, as tragic as it was, is school safety. And I think we're going to try to elicit from you folks today is your opinions on that, and maybe make some votes along the lines of what you view as school safety, how we do it. We have, as you know, we have school resource officers in our middle schools. We'd like to have them in our high schools. You have lockdown drills that you kids are very familiar with, do a great job with. You have stand-in-place, shelter-in-place situations, and you are very aware and prominent of our school resource officer, Warren Wright, who is very prominent and visible throughout the school. So school safety is a national concern right now. We think in Lynn we do a terrific job in that. The mayor has for years given us the appropriate funding and continues to support what your needs are in that regard, and safety is the #1 issue. Some of the things in the previous years that we've had discussion here at the student school committee matters have been start times. What's the best time? We understand the secondary schools would rather have a later start date, for example. We've had discussions on the value of having Narcan in our schools, in the hands of nurses and our administrators. What is the length of the school day? Should it be an hour longer? Should it be 2 hours longer? Should it be more enrichment? Should there be more after-school programs? All things under the purview of the school committee, all part of policy making. So today, I think maybe a way to get this started in terms of a mock discussion would be to start a conversation among you kids and just go down the line, give me your thoughts on what you perceive as school safety today, your personal concerns, your macro concerns about the whole city, and any other things that would come to your mind that you view as a significant issue in your school building, in the city in terms of schools, whether it be school lunches, whether it be school dress code, whether it be suspensions, whether it be discipline, anything of that nature, you're welcome to talk about today. But I'd like to start down the other end. And see, it's always hard to come up with that first one. And see what is on your mind. How do you think we're doing in school safety? Do you feel safe? Are you comfortable coming to school every day? We also have the whole situation. School committee put a policy together for the DACA children, what their safety concerns are, what your parents' safety concerns are, anything that is within that frame of school safety and how comfortable you are. And also, are you in any way comfortable with if you had to maybe talk to your school resource officer about something you've heard, maybe you're concerned about, you've seen something on social media. So I'll let it start in that fashion. I think that somebody always has to start. So if you have anything you want to comment on, anything you think is a concern, even in your building, you're welcome to go. And I'll try to help you along. I'm sorry. And your name is, young lady?
Tuda.
And school?
Lynn English High School.
English High School, okay.
So we do have lockdown drills and we have secure holds. But I see a lot online about how there's this new protocol that some schools are trying where each classroom sort of arms their kids with like an arsenal of like rocks, but you know how they have like those little things that you can throw at intruders if they come in. I think that would be a better choice because that's actually proven to be like to disorient the intruder if there is one. And I think there should be more not police presence, but more like security measures because it is just like wear an ID and like they have people that are there if an altercation does break out, but they don't. I haven't seen a police officer like posted in our school, and I feel like it would be better if we had like one. I don't know if there is one, but I've never seen one at our school, so I think that would be a good place to start.
Anybody in the audience, feel free to raise your hand to participate or ask a question.
I feel like our main issue is that more security and who gets to go in and out of the school. Sometimes I feel like we're not very safe with who we let in our school. Like sometimes the doors just really open to everybody walking after school. I feel like that's a big issue that needs to be fixed.
You said they're open after school?
Yeah, open after school.
Unlocked.
Unlocked. So anyone can go in and out. I get that it's for sports and things like that, but there should be at least somebody standing by the door at least to make sure to see who's going in and out. And speaking of someone standing by the door, I think it's important to have some sort of security because kids carry around big bags and sometimes they don't know what's in there.
How do you feel about during the school day as far
I feel
as doors
safe.
being locked access?
Yeah, no, I feel safe during the school day and after school, but I feel like they should just have a precaution.
And maybe have a mandate to open the door.
Yeah, or something like that, or at least have some sort of security for kids who have big bags and don't know what's in there.
Anybody else?
Could she introduce herself and just tell my name is Kimberly from Series?
I'm Megan, I'm from Lynn Tech, and I've also seen some videos online. There was like a whole security system in the school. It was, they had cameras all over the school and they were directly connected to the police, and the police could always view them. And if there was a shooter, they had like heat blasters throughout all the hallways, and they could direct the shooter toward a door with the heat blasters because it disoriented them. And they also had tape on the floor for like the best angles of where to hide a kid or hide your classroom. And I thought that like it looked really secure, and I thought it was a really nice idea.
Where'd you see that?
Just on Facebook. I don't know what school it was, but I'm sure you can find it if you look it up.
I could add that all of the cameras that you have in your buildings and the cameras inside and outside of all the buildings, they are not in the classrooms, but they are inside and outside, and they are all connected to the Lynn Police Department. They have access to our cameras at all times.
Hi, I'm Mercedes, I go to KIP, and about like what, I'm sorry, I'm Rich, Kim, you said about like locking your doors after school, like particularly in our school, we always have like a teacher placed after school, like with a desk by the front desk, she's like, she has a desk by the front desk, and she signs kids in, like you have to have a pass, like what teacher you're gonna go to, and then the doors are literally just like always locked, like there's the secretary, like she has to actually unlock the door for you. And the doors you leave by on the side, like you're not allowed to go back in through that door. You have to go around so like they can physically see like who's entering and exiting the building.
Yeah, that's what we don't have as It's very
Do we have that in our schools? Anyone at the...
Our doors are locked after school, and actually our school liaison with the police department, Officer Orrin Wright, he works with both KIP and St. Mary's and does practice drills with them at the same time, so we do share our resources. We do have in the morning, of course, English High School has doors, a lot of them, so I know KIP's situation is a little easier to keep track of a front door, but we do have people at the front doors, yes. Thank you.
I'm Megan, Lynn English. I just think overall having IDs and readers would probably eliminate most of the problems, especially that so many schools have after-school programs that kids need get to. I think they would make it easy for everyone, and it'd be much better than having like a teacher stand guard in case something did happen. And when it comes to the school shutting down, making sure no one comes in, just disable all the computers at say like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m.
That's actually, I like that idea with regards to the same badges that we have, because that could actually help with attendance too. And the teacher would just double check it when they're in the classroom to make sure the person actually got there. But that's actually smart.
So if you're in your school and you see somebody walking down your car, let's say an adult, and they have no badge on, what would your reaction or thought be on that matter?
Run.
And then you what?
Yeah, I said run.
Yeah.
Yes.
I really don't allow this to come in and get an adult first.
You would find an adult. You wouldn't stop that individual, but you would find an adult and report that individual. Okay. And what if you see somebody walking down your corridor with a red lanyard on? What would you assume that individual to be?
A visitor.
What do you say?
A visitor.
A visitor. And when a visitor comes into your building, are you aware of how that individual has to check in, what they have to go through before they're given that red lanyard?
Yes.
And I will say, if I walk into a building and I see an adult without this lanyard, at least one of our public school buildings, and I'm sure the same is, I immediately stop that person and ask who they are and why they don't have these. We go around with these at all times. And so I think that was a good suggestion. We expect the adults in the building to have some kind of identification and go to another adult and say, who is this? Somebody's walking down the hall without a lanyard. And I think that's a good idea.
Now, when you have lockdowns, sometimes they're drilled and sometimes they're not. Are you told?
No.
No. So you go right into action. A lockdown you treat as an event. And I'm told you guys do a fabulous job on that. Sometimes you may have a substitute teacher, for example, in your classroom, and a lockdown or a shelter in place occurs. I am told that sometimes a substitute teacher is quite aware of you kids take over and direct them and tell them what they're supposed to do and do a great job until that all clears. So that's good. How do you feel about the canines, the dogs coming into your school and searching or smelling walkers and things of that nature? Do you view that as intrusive? Do you view that as a nice safety measure? How do you feel about that? Any comments on that?
I actually like how they have the dogs come in because I think that it's a more efficient way of just making sure that the school is safe. And I know that there are some kids that will bring in like drugs and marijuana and stuff, and so I feel more comfortable when there are dogs that come in to make sure that that's not in our environment, and it makes me feel better just knowing that there are measures taken against drugs and stuff.
Yes.
I think that we need to be very careful, especially in the city of Lynn, about the militarization of our schools. Like adding police officers or adding canine dogs into our schools is really dangerous for us, specifically as students of color, because we are dealing with this outside of school, and school is a safety place for me specifically, because at home I am afraid of walking down the street every day, afraid of the police officer shooting me. So this idea of adding cops and adding canine dogs to our school is really scaring me, and the fact that people agree with this scares me, because the militarization of our community is really bad right now. We have places like Lynn where police officers are constantly patrolling, and then the fact that you want to add more police officers to our school is just giving us a sense that we are dangerous or that we are the problem, which we're not. Instead of adding police officers or canine dogs, we should add more mental health counselors or people who can actually address issues instead of adding more issues to the problem.
Are you involved in student government at all?
I was the president freshman year, but then
What school?
I'm sorry, I got it vocabulary. So I was president the freshman year, historian sophomore year, and as president freshman, we really didn't do much because we are freshmen. But like, yeah.
What do you think about the idea with the badges for students? That's militarizing.
So the badges for the students, I think that's a better idea than adding police officers or adding canine dogs to the school community. Because if you go to that school, you should be allowed into that school without like no doubt. But like I understand the like safety hazard of like allowing intrusive like people to come in. But like schools like mine, like Lynn, we have a front desk lady. Like you can't. There's like we have like our school is smaller than most of your schools, so it's like easier to control. But like we have like 2 doors that you can come in through, and it's either the front or the back. And you can't go through the back after 3:45, which is when we end school. So in order to get into the school, you have to ring in the door in the front desk. So I think that's a good idea if you have to go into the school instead of militarizing the schools.
Yes. What do you think why do you think we have a dog coming in the school? Oh, they're bringing a dog in to sniff for drugs, for weapons. Yes. And they walk around and all they do is they smell the walker. And if they have a certain response if they smell a drug, and that's the only reason why they're going to schools. They're not to see any person, they're not, matter of fact, every student in our public schools and at St. Mary's are in the classroom when the dog's out, they can't even go outside. Just so you know, so you don't think they're behind, because that's not what they're doing.
I understand like drugs shouldn't be allowed to school, obviously weapons shouldn't be allowed to school, but like the sense for people like me, a person of color like me, and seeing all these things that are going on in the news, where like black and brown folk are being criminalized, and like adding this canine dogs to our school is just like, so who am I? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, am I going to become a drug dealer? Am I going to become a criminal when I grow up? Like, why are you like bringing these canine dogs?
I think what you're saying is there's an assumption that they're going to find something because they're bringing okay. But I can tell you that there was one recently and they found absolutely nothing. So
what's the point of bringing them in?
I think it's a precaution. Yeah. So.
I used to go to school where there was like routine, like canines coming into the school and like.
You say routine, more frequent than?
More frequent, like about maybe like once a week or so.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was just an expected thing. Like if we weren't allowed to leave the classroom, you know what's going on. And like I understand, like we usually don't see the dogs when they come, but it's for me, if this were to ever happen or be implemented at my school. It would be a concern of like a culture shift, and I know that like for people who don't have those things happening in their schools every day, they don't know. But since I've like seen the difference, it's where like whenever a dog would come in or the police would come in to search our lockers, it would be the immediate thought like, oh, here come the dogs again. Like this is who we are. Like this is a bad school. Like we're a bad school community. Like this is what is expected of us. And I think there's a concern of safety, like you said, and like how we want to prevent those things from, being in the house, being in the lockers or whatever, but I think that there needs to be a different way to go about that. Like in this age or whatever there is, it has to be, better technology that we can harness that will not, be so intrusive and so detrimental to our school culture and community and the way that we perceive ourselves, because it can be a lot more hurtful than we imagine or think, especially if we've been accustomed to that or not been accustomed to that.
So you're saying that the other side is the psych.
Totally.
Yes.
Like people who don't have that in their schools and they've never faced it, you'd be surprised how much just subconsciously day by day, like even in your classes, like, yeah, this is a regular thing. Immediately, in your mind, inherently, you believe that, wow, this is what we're meant to be, this is who we are, I guess, we're bad. They need to do this to us because this is who we are.
Is this in Lynn? Elementary school?
This is in Saga, I used to go there.
Any other committee members have any, how about metal detectors? Any thoughts? Obviously,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So I used to go to school in New York, and like in my school we had to like actually walk through a metal detector. So it was just like you were like I don't know, like personally, like my cousins and I, it's like so it was like expected that someone was like supposed to like bring in a knife or something. And like yeah, there were a couple of times where like people did bring in knives to school and whatnot, and like that's why we walked through the metal detector. But I just feel like there are like other ways. Like, and like I love dogs, and so it's like okay, like why not have a dog in school? But like this is like a more like how Jonathan and Victoria both said, like it's a more like imminent matter of like having it's like psychological. It's like because we are in Lynn and we are like an urban school or something, we don't have like for example, I also went to school in like a really nice white neighborhood, and like they never had police officers present or medical detective or anything like that. And I also went to Breeder, we had Officer He, I think his name was. So like maybe if you were to like add like an officer, like make him like part of the community, not just like a random stranger, like have him like be a part of like the school community so kids can get along with them. So and like that there's like that issue of both having someone like present, but like also kids feeling safe and like not that, oh my goodness, there's a cop here, I'm automatically gonna like have that presence of, you know, like danger.
Anybody on the school committee have any thoughts with regard to that metal detectors or not, dog searches? Go ahead.
So I know everyone's talking about how an increase in security measures would make us seem just inherently bad as a community in an urban setting. But as someone who goes to a public school, you can't choose who goes to your school. So you have all of these students from all these different backgrounds going into the same school as you. You don't know where they came from. I mean, you don't know if they had a terrible background. You don't know if they're potentially, they could be sociopathic, and you don't have a right to just turn them away and say, you know, you can't come here. So for me, because I go to such a large public school, I think it would make me feel more secure having those security measures for those outliers that could potentially harm us. And I don't think it has anything to do with where we're from in Lynn. I think that's just our society today, and just the increasing amount of school violence and school shootings. And I agree that we need to have more done in terms of mental health and mental evaluation of students who need it. But I think that in this day and age, unfortunately, there do need to be significant improvements in security.
I have a question. Do you believe that the programs inside the schools help, like peer mediation or a school counselor? Do you believe that those help in disputes and concerns that you have?
I think that those programs have the right intentions, but I don't think that they're always properly executed, and I don't think they're the most efficient that they could be. I think that the goal, rather than actually solving the issue and making sure that there's harmony between students, it's more just to get it out of the way, and just, it's very business-like, and I think that it needs to change to be more on a personal level.
Dr. Tutwell?
Yeah, first I was Dr. Tutwell, Deputy Superintendent for Lynn Public Schools. I just want to first say I'm deeply impressed by the depth of your perspectives on this topic. I'm getting a real education over here. But I thought I'd just quickly offer a little bit of perspective. I have the luxury of having been a principal in a, suburban with a capital S high school, but also a Boston public high school. And I'll tell you that in both, there was police presence and dog searches. So it is not necessarily, it's a safety and security measure. As educators, our foremost priority is your safety. And I also want to offer that it's a both and sort of thing. So we do the dog searches because we want to send a strong message around no weapons, no drugs, your safety and security. We have a school resource officer on campus because we want the general public to know that there's an officer here. And then we also want to build relationships between the students and the officer. We want to work together. The other part of the both and is the education, the relationship building. I'm sure there's some semblance of homeroom or advisory. You have a health curriculum where we talk about drugs, alcohol, decision making, your mental health, healthy relationships. So not only are we as educators, trying to address the security and safety piece, which is our foremost priority. We also want to make sure that, you know, we're doing our jobs as your educators around the, you know, drugs, alcohol, you know, mental health, and things of that nature. So it's both. It is a balanced approach to this issue that you're talking about.
Thank you. Somebody else has a hand up? Yes.
I think when it comes to counselors in our school, I think at Lynn Tech, our counselors are really good, but I feel like when you come in as a freshman, the appointment places get taken up so fast. I just don't think that there's like enough counselors. Like I think we only have 1 or 2 at our school. 3? Well, I know they get taken up quick and not everybody gets a chance to see who they need to, and I think that's also an issue.
Anybody on the panel have any comments with that regard? Anybody on the panel from St. Mary's? Anybody from St. Mary's here? So St. Mary's, you have school uniforms. Kim Academy?
Yeah.
Others, you also have school uniforms?
Yeah.
Lynn Public does not have school uniforms. Any comments about that as it relates to possibly school safety?
So I don't think this relates to school safety. I think it just relates to more comfort. So we are given different sweaters for different sports. We play them at the St. Mary's logo, but yet we're not allowed to wear it unless it's Friday. And I feel like we should be able to wear it on weekdays, especially
You say it's a level of comfort.
Yeah,
can you just expand on that a little bit?
like, say if it's a full day and you don't have like a St. Mary's fleece, you just have the St. Mary's fleece from your sports team, then you should be able to wear that every full day or something like that. Because I know some kids are freezing.
Is there any other reason that the school uniforms are required to St. Mary's, other than comfort, for example?
Well, I feel like it's good to like not see like too much as a difference between people just from the years.
Not a difference between kids, you talk about
Like just
financially, things of that nature. Okay. Yes.
Well, first of all, I'll answer your question in a minute. If you talk to like your student council, it was like that for us last year, and we were just like, listen, like I should be able to wear like my softball like jacket like throughout the week. So it's like you have to like talk to them. Like we managed to switch the dress code because it used to only be on Fridays, but we managed to switch it. We also managed to like not have to tuck our shirts in. So you know you just gotta keep on talking. Anyways, so talking about like financial needs, like in our school, there's a lot of people who are going through a lot of stuff right now, and like it may not show because like you know people don't want like. We don't want to know like their business. Like I'm a very private person, and so I feel like dress code is a really good thing because I have been to like I went to class like in my freshman year and my sophomore year I went to KIT. Lucky me. At least that's my emotions at the moment. But because like I don't know, I'm 4, so it's like it was difficult for my mom to try to like support me buying because like you have to. It's like there's like this pressure that you have to always keep up with like the latest shoes and like the latest Jordans and like everything that's going on. But like when you have a uniform, it's like yeah, it's kind of annoying and it sucks. But like everyone is dressed the same and like there really isn't anything. And then you like. It can be lenient. I don't know how it is at your school, but we have like these polos. You can wear a cardigan over it. You have like if you have a college like sweater, you can wear those on Fridays. Like it's a very lenient dress code compared to other KIPP schools, because other KIPP schools like they are more hard, like they're hardcore, like bow ties and everything. So I feel like dress code is like at first I was really against it, but like seeing how it has affected some of my peers, because there are like people I know who are going through some very difficult situations. Like having a dress code like kind of like brings down like the having to like keep up with the social norms. Now the prices of those like dress codes, we need to really fix those because a polo be costing like $40 and like, that like really defeats the purpose of trying to you know bring everyone on the same level.
Any comments here on dress code?
I'm talking about the school committee. You're Michael, come on.
I'm sure the school committee has had
This is the quietest school committee I've ever seen.
So I'm Grace, I'm from Lynn English. We obviously don't have uniforms there, and I understand like the benefits of having uniforms, you know. And like I understand your case, but do you ever feel that by being forced to wear uniforms, you're not allowing students to express themselves? Because I know a lot of students, they love dressing up a certain way. They feel comfortable that way. It shows everyone else who they are. So do you ever feel like that gets taken away a little bit?
Are you asking me?
Well, that's you. Anyone in uniforms, I think it would make sense coming from someone who actually wears uniforms. So.
I think that's like a really important issue, definitely like being able to express yourself. But I also think it's upon like the school community to allow you to be able to express yourself. So like that kid, we have like things like poetry groups, we have like the GSA, what else? We have like sports and stuff like that. So you're able to like express yourself in other ways than just like your dress code. Because dress code is just like one way of expressing yourself, but like also like having a voice and being able to like also we have like we do this at school, like we allow like students to come in into like community like board members and stuff like that and speak to like them and stuff, like from kids and stuff. So like that's another way to express yourself if you have issues with the dress code.
So come on, go ahead, that was
Brian.
Hi, my name is Chanel and I'm from Lynn, and from a school that is like technical and we have like 2 buildings. I think that having a dress code will like be uncomfortable for us, like crossing buildings, wearing like we're comfortable like wearing sweatpants and stuff like that, and like being in your shop you get like your uniforms dirty with like machine oils and stuff like that. So I feel like wearing uniforms at Lynn Tech, it wouldn't be like comfortable for us or like appropriate in that matter.
As a policymaker, as it relates to safety and how it's administered from school to school, how does the dress code impact that? An example, when the school committee approved its dress code or most recently reviewed it within the last couple of years, the business of tucked-in shirts was a real contemporary issue with the student body. Because the styles, at that time, I don't know about today, I'm too old, but guys wore their polo shirts out. And there was a concern about how would that lead to the potential of someone hiding a weapon. So the dress code was getting into the tuck-in mode. And other areas of the dress code can be construed as having to do with school safety. In your different schools, who's here from class school on this day? Anybody from class school? Anybody in class school right now? Talk about your dress code and how it's enforced.
Our school is actually very lenient compared to other schools, but they do enforce like with the baggy t-shirts and like the really big pants, so like to tuck it in terms of school safety. So I believe that's really enforced.
In English high school, is the dress code? I just saw it. Is the dress code really adhered to or enforced? And different, do you think, than maybe classical?
Yes.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
English has a very strict dress code, and I've been told by our teachers that it's supposed to be the same all across Lynn, but that schools get to choose whether or not they enforce it. But I don't know. English has a very intense dress code. Yeah.
Anybody from Vector Larry here? Yes. Could you talk about the dress code and or its enforcement at your school?
The dress code is very lenient there.
A little louder.
The dress code is very lenient over there.
It's very lenient? Is that an administrative decision, you think? Or is it maybe because you got a smaller...
Yeah, there's not that many kids, so it doesn't have to be very strict.
Okay. Should we speak to the principal about that?
Just like don't ruin it for me.
Okay, school committee members also. The Lynn School Committee has a policy on cell phones. And there's a little bit of flexibility in it, but as I understand, and again, relating this to school safety, should you have a cell phone on your person? Should there be an event in your building? Should you be able to use your cell phone? Or is it a distraction? Or is it a signal for the intruder? So in English high school, how strictly enforced is your cell phone policy?
It's very strict.
Very. That's too varies from you.
Do they take it away from you in the morning, or?
They won't take it away in the morning, but if they do see it, they take it away and then they write you up and you get detention or you can get suspensions. You're not allowed to, even if you're in the morning and you're sitting there during like the breakfast time or you're just waiting for school to start, sometimes there'll be people walking down there like, get off your phones, even though school's not started yet.
Anybody else on the panel? Anybody here from, on the panel from, did we say tech already? On cell phone? No. Tech, cell phone?
We're allowed.
School safety, I'm thinking.
Yeah, we're allowed to use it at lunch only in the cafeteria. We're not allowed like outside of the cafeteria, like walking around or anything. If they see it, they tell us to put it away. And for school safety, I think like that is okay, but at the same time, like we're walking like to and from class, like in the hallways. I think we should be like allowed to use it during that time, but like as soon as we get
You think you should?
Yes. But as soon as we get into the classroom, then it should be like put away.
Use it to make phone calls, or just?
No, just like texting your friends or something. And also like if there's an intruder, like we should be allowed to like use our phone to like contact your parents and letting them know like what's going on. And I know like you guys also do that, like texting the parents, letting them know, oh, this is the situation that's happening at your child's school. But as a parent, like they probably want to get in touch with their child directly to find out if they are okay, because you administrators, they can tell the safety of every single individual. They can tell the safety of like overall, but they don't know like how that person's feeling. A child could be having like a breakdown and want to contact their parents and can't be able to do that because they're not allowed to use their cell phones. And also, sorry, like if it's like on a regular day without like intruders or anything, I feel like it's intruding personal space. Like if you have to like call your parents from like the office phone, like you have administrators there like listening into your conversation, and I feel like that's invading your privacy.
I'm also from Lynn Tech. We've had several shelter in places this year, and I know that I can see why staff would want us to know what's going on, but at the same time, when we don't know what's happening in a shelter in place, it incites a panic. I know we had one during lunch a couple weeks ago. It was like 2 weeks after the Florida. No. No, the shooting in Florida. And so they asked us to move away from the windows, and we were all really scared and we didn't know what was going on.
It was false.
It was just someone had an emergency outside and they came into the school, so they just didn't want us to move. But we didn't know that. So it's like when we can use our phones during that, the students can stay connected, so if someone knows what's going on, it can like help like everyone else like get a sense of what's going on and like either calm down the panic or prepare the students for what's happening.
Anybody have an opposing view as to what she just talked about?
I agree with the part so that your parents know what's going on. I think it's really important, but the safety issues and the parents come to the school here.
Is he opposing view?
I can hear that.
So what she said, Dr. Atwater, is in our school safety reviews, and Officer White would say the same thing. She said that if you're allowed to use your cell phone, for example, to call your parents, or call somebody else, you put that parent in harm's way if that parent comes rushing to the school. Because you don't know what's going on outside, as you said. I might add parenthetically here that the shelter in place that you're referring to, we are very much aware of. And your school acted absolutely admirably during that whole process. And it was right at the end of the schools, so you kids are ready to go home. That's what your faculty.
Yeah, that's what.
Right by the last bell. An officer ordered the shelter in place immediately, and your school, to your credit, shut down and observed that shelter in place admirably and effectively. There was a serious event, as you indicated, next door. Okay, and the whole thing about staying away from windows, trying to figure out what happened and all that said. It worked beautifully. Even when it was declared over, you had to exit a specific door, so you had to stay away from the event. There was at Neptune Towers. So that was a great job and a good example of shelter-in-place. But you're right on in having the opposing view. If you're a policymaker, which the school committee is, okay, how would you react to that business if you had to take a vote? You saw film of that terrible event in Florida. There was videos, horrible videos, in one of those classrooms. How would you vote as a school board member? We're getting near the end here, to allowing cell phones on to be used during lockdown or shelter in places. How would you?
I vote.
By vote, yes or no?
Cell phone use.
Say again.
Do I have to go now? Can I vote after?
Yeah.
What's the first thing?
The problem is that I agree with like students having phones like during the regular school day, but when it comes to lockdown, I know we should do it.
The hottest part is you have to.
You have to say yes or no.
Let me try to, let's assume that during the lockdown, one of the first things that a teacher would do would be collect cell phones. No.
So I think that gives you a good point. Let the committee members vote because it gives you a feeling of what it takes to make some of these decisions.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is, I'll tell you what, there's most issues, and I think this is a great learning moment, there's nothing that's, very rarely is a black and white issue. They're all gray issues. So you're going to make really tough decisions based on complicated fact patterns and complicated issues too. How do we make those decisions that are right for the community when it's not clear what the appropriate decision might be? So I think that you sitting there and being challenged about what the decision is I think a role that, and I don't want to speak well as members, but I'm in public service or an elected office. Sometimes it seems so simple from the outside. When you look at all the issues and you look at the broad range of solutions, it's sometimes very tough to come up with the right answer that solves those problems. But you have to, in the end, make a decision one way or the other and go in that direction. So I think maybe having a chance for them, pose the question again, Tom, and see if you can.
I shall, and I'm going to add one, Ms. Gately just brings another wrinkle to it. And that is, if there's a tremendous use of cell phones in a particular area, it may jam the airwaves, if that's the appropriate technical term.
Just one more nugget for the committee's thinking. If a student in an emergency in a lockdown is on his or her phone, they're not listening to the teacher's direction.
And just one more, sorry. Typically, before the meeting, you get an agenda, and you're going to know what's discussed. So you're thinking on your feet quickly, but typically we'll see, okay, we're going to discuss school safety, and Tom would say, oh, you know, this is the pinpoints that we're going to have. So it's not always like, bam, you have to say yes or no. There's obviously some thought process in it, but this is where you are today. So, yes.
So we have 5 minutes left for this group, so you have to vote.
We're going to get it right from the end.
Yep.
So to restate, we're talking about the opportunity or not to use during a lockdown, drill or otherwise, because you don't know, the cell phone, or should a teacher or an adult collect the cell phones as soon as lockdown in place? Your vote.
We should be able to use that.
Say it louder.
We should be able to use our phones.
If you want to talk about it, I'll just let you vote. Okay. Young lady?
We should.
You should?
Yeah, we should
Yes.
be able to use them.
Be able to use them. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you give me an example of during a lockdown drill, in what circumstance would you use your cell phone if you have the permission to do it?
I'm just like, if you put more structure on something, then people are more tempted to do it. Like, if you just say that no phones, people are gonna try and sneak it.
And it's just going to create more of a
What if your phone rings and somebody used the word, and the shooter is in the corridor, and the door's locked, shades are down, he doesn't know whether anybody is in there or not, and then a cell phone rings.
Well, usually during school, you're told to put your phone outside. So.
That's a good answer.
What if? Well, what if?
I mean, you can switch over to selectively to ring.
If you like put a teacher to like the phones, it's just going to like distract them from the bigger issue.
Next member, your vote. You voted yes?
So 3 yeses.
3 yeses.
Okay.
I don't think they should take their phone, but I don't think they should use it either.
That's a no. I agree with you. I'll go yes.
Majority had it. Go ahead.
Wait, I'm sorry, what is the exact question?
During lockdown, or do you believe that teachers should collect the phones, or should students be able to use them?
Okay. Do not collect it, so no.
So yes.
Yes. See, that's the
Keep the phone.
Keep the phone.
That's a yes.
No phones? So 2?
So that's, I think we have a unanimous vote of the school committee to keep cell phones and have them available during the lockdown. And I would ask you, after you leave, to dwell on that a little bit more. Any other further comments with the end of this? Last comment.
On the issue of phones during lockdown, I know that like what is good at yes, but I feel like it's a no because like people said like during lockdown everyone is panicking. So it's more like it's better if it's just like the phone. So that it's just like okay, like have everybody's attention and like have like so they just have control over the students and like we should all stay in this place, we should all do this and that. And then like ask the instructions. Also it's just better for like the parent side because like you don't want to be texting the parents and say, oh, blah, 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 there's a shooter outside. You don't want them rushing, you know, like you don't even want your parents panicking whatever they have. Just like they make it have like people getting each other, like anyone who's in the language gender. So it's like much better if they collect the phone, like after like in that situation. Being able to use a phone like during school, yeah, but like just like doing like for security purpose, being lockdown and stuff, I feel like it's just more better.
So last question, we haven't heard from this young lady.
My name is Ariana, I'm from English. I think if we have access to our phones, it doesn't mean we're necessarily going to use them. We can still have them on and by ourselves if there wasn't a lockdown. I had my phone on me, my first reaction would be like, oh my god, I'm like Snapchat of this. It'd be like, let me find some place to hide. But also, like, if we were in a sticky situation, I would want to text my mom, like, hey, love you, I'm in this really bigger situation, and like, tell her that. So I think when it comes to phones, I don't think our automatic reaction would be like, oh, we need to use it. I think maybe finding like a safe place and if it doesn't come down to it, like using it to contact their parents. So.
Okay, so we have Alatam Noam, is that person here? Sorry. So you're the secretary of the school committee, so she'd be doing what you do? Okay. Is there Carla Abad? No?
Carla?
I think we have to pick a new one, they said. Brian Flores? Come on up. Hatem Flores. Hayden, sorry. Grace Gately is the superintendent. Are you here? Oh, that's B, sorry. Jamie James? Oh. So you're going to be captain today. You're on the school committee, so you'll sit anywhere here. Not here though, that's the mayor. So you can be me. There you go. Is there Luis Vidal? Or Luis Vidal?
No, he's not here.
Okay. Jessica Horacio?
That's it, I think you're choosing a field except for
Oh, yeah, so.
Do we have a mayor? We'll put somebody in as temporary mayor.
Of course. So let's put it here and here. So I think that's where we're missing. So we need a mayor. Last time we had a female mayor. Do you want to have a male mayor?
No mayor. Oh, okay.
Who's going to be the mayor?
Who wants to volunteer?
questions from the superintendent and from Tom as to the school committee and the public schools.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kathy Lynn, I'm the superintendent of schools. And as the school committee, and I answer to the school committee, the #1 job for a school committee is to select a superintendent. So I've been a superintendent, this is my 10th year now. I'll be retiring soon. So right now, our current school committee is actively looking for a new me. And you've probably seen articles in the newspaper. There have been all kinds of focus groups at many of the schools and at City Hall. But basically, school committee does select a few things, but they pay me to run the school system. And so I make personnel decisions, I work on the budget along with, and I have here a Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Patrick Tatwala. So that's what we do, we run the school department, which is the 5th largest school system in the state of Massachusetts, behind only Boston, Springfield, Worcester, and Brockton. And we're making a move on Brockton now, so we may be the 4th soon. Who knows? We have a lot of students, over 16,000 students and 26 schools. And many of you know that. Kip is here. Anybody from Kip? Yes, Kip. You are your own public school system, but not part of the Lynn Public Schools. You know that, of course. And St. Mary's is here as well. St. Mary's, hello, folks. And you all, some of you live in Lynn, some may not live in Lynn. But again, we are not a public school system, so a little bit different. But we're all from Lynn here, and we all take benefit from being here on Student Government Day. This is excellent. So on the school committee meetings, if you have seen them on television, you'll see that the school committee sits, and then at the other end of the table will be Ms. Arabino, who is the secretary of the Lynn School Committee, and a trusted aide of mine. Trusted colleague of mine, I should say. Next is our business manager, who is Kevin McHugh, and he is selected by the school committee. It's one personnel matter that I don't do. I don't select. Then there are deputy superintendents. I have 2. Ms. Kimberly Powers is one. Did anyone come from Ingalls? You remain, nobody here? Okay. And Dr. Tatwala. And then the school department attorney John Michaels. We sit at the meetings, we offer explanations and arguments and information to the Lynn School Committee, but we get absolutely no vote. So the school committee does policy. They decide, for example, and you may have a discussion of this later, Mr. Arabino will do it, whether you can have cell phones or not. And once they vote on a policy, it's my responsibility to make sure that that policy happens in the schools. So that the policymakers, they choose the superintendent and a few other people, basically they pay us to run the Lynn School Department. So,
thank you. And we do have another school committee member with us, Lorraine Gately.
Good morning. I was stuck upstairs with a few students. So my job on the school committee, most of you know me because you worked on my campaign, and I want to thank you very much for that. My job is a policy maker. I'm on 3 subcommittees. I'm on the building and grounds, and that committee is really important because, we make the decisions, not the final. We are the final decisions on buildings and grounds. So when you get a cold room or something happens in the public schools, what usually happens is the principal notifies Dr. Latham, goes to the school and talks to Mr. Tom Marabino, who is the secretary of our schools and our go-to person, and they inform us that this is happening in our buildings. So that's what the buildings and grounds do. I'm also on the curriculum committee, so I want to make sure that our curriculum in the city of Lynn is aligned so much that when you go to college, you go out to the work fair, you're prepared so that you will be able to go out and be successful. And then I'm also on the personnel committee, on that subcommittee. On that subcommittee, we just wrote up or approved the position for a social emotional learning supervisor, and we had to write the posting for the new superintendent of schools. And then we have to vote on that in the subcommittee, then it goes to the committee of the whole. being on the school committee, you have a few days to do some research. That's what I like to do, research all these things and figure out what is the best thing for my constituents. My constituents call me a lot, they talk to me, they express their concerns, and then I try to find a good solution, work with the superintendent, work with the family, and bring up questions. But that's what our job is on the school committee. We are your voice, you call us, we will try to get things done or find out the answers so that you don't feel like you don't have a voice. Thank you.
And as you can see, this is open. There's a law in Massachusetts, the open meeting law, and this requires us to have our meetings open. So if you guys are, I know this young man came to one of our meetings before, you're able to come and experience it. So it's definitely a good thing. I want to introduce Tom. Tom will give the synopsis and take over. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, and thank you all for coming, and welcome here. Just a brief macro view before we get into it of the school department in the city of Lynn. I know we've got some St. Mary's kids. How many kids are at St. Mary's High School? Any idea? 500.
500?
500? So the Lynn Public Schools has 16,400 students, just to give you a view. We have 4 high schools, English Classical, the vocational school, and the Bethel Leary High School. We have 3 middle schools, and we have 18 elementary schools. We have a budget, if you can in some way equate to this, of $149 million, which is spent annually on the running of the Lynn Public Schools. On the city side of it, there's additional millions of dollars that takes care of the capital maintenance of our buildings. So we're kind of like a really big organization, staffed with over 1,400 employees to go along with the 16,000 odd students. The school committee is a subset of the legislative body of the city of Lynn. You have the executive department, which is the mayor in his office. You have the legislative department, which is the city council. The school committee is a subset of that. And you have the judicial, which is the lawyers for the city of Lynn. Okay. Just give you a little view of that. School committee, as Mr. Satterwhite said, is elected at large. That's citywide versus the city councilors are elected by ward and have 4 at large. School committee members have a 2-year term, and it's all coincidental, they're not staggered. So every 2 years, these folks have to run for re-election, and they can all get re-elected, they can all not get re-elected. So there's a potential swing there. This year we have a couple of new members. They're now in their 4th month, doing a great job. Jump right in with both feet and representing you and your families and your parents quite well. Michael mentioned some of these significant roles that the community plays within the purview of hiring, within the purview of policy making. One of the other significant areas aside from that and the budget is they handle all contract negotiations. We have a number of labor unions under the umbrella of the public schools, including teachers, secretaries, nurses, vice principals, maintenance folks, all of that said, all collectively bargaining the contracts, all under the auspices and the purview of Lynn School. What we're going to talk about today, and maybe at the end of this meeting, come to some sort of a vote. We talk about school safety, and of course, the contemporary awareness of all that is predicated on a horrible event down in Parkland, Florida, of recent months. You kids are subjected to, in your building, lockdowns, unannounced. You don't know if it's or if you don't know what's about. You have shelter in place, and there's a third one, I can't think of the other name. But you're constantly being drilled on those events, and you do a fabulous job in that regard. Some of the things we talked about earlier that relate to school safety, we'll have discussions starting from the school committee. Some of the areas we talked about, for example, would be the effectiveness of those lockdown drills, how they're administered, the effectiveness of when we have the K-9 crews come in, the police dogs from the sheriff's department, the value of that or not. Talk about the value of it or not, having metal detectors in schools, which, as you know, we do not. We're interested in your opinion on that. This would be kind of like a town meeting. You folks are allowed to participate in this. So to kind of get it started in our center, I want to get an idea of what the school committee members here, starting with the mayor. The mayor is sitting in the middle of the table. What his thoughts may be surrounding the events of recent months in the shootings in schools, and how you view how the Lynn Public Schools today are addressing, preparing for, drilling, and funding school safety. And Mr. Mayor, if you have a few comments as maybe relate to your school, what school are you from?
English.
You're an English student. Your thoughts on how effective lockdown drills are, shelter in place, things of that nature, visitors coming into schools doors locked or not, access to schools, things of that nature. Just a couple of comments, and we'll move along and get some questions from the folks in the audience.
So I think how the lockdown is, in my opinion, I feel like we should find like a better way, because most of the school shootings is like are the students in the school, so they know where you are, they know how to, so they know some students could just like they could shoot the door open, they know where you are, same area. So like I feel like we should find like a better hiding place, maybe like put something somewhere so we could like just have a different scenario of lockdown.
So at English High School you have almost 1,700 students. I don't know how many faculty members, but probably a couple hundred at least, I know. So an effective way to hide everybody, other than classrooms, would be in a bigger setting, the field house, do you think, or the cafeteria, or
like just like maybe like this is kind of complex, but like maybe like we have a little secret floor door in all the rooms, so like we could try to hide in there, or make the doors bulletproof or something. Like something more effective, because most of the school shootings are literally the students that have been through the lockdown, so they know where the kids are. They know everybody's here. They're not gonna be like, oh, the doors are closed, nobody's here.
Also, any comments from the audience? How about somebody from classical? Anybody from classical here? Yes, ma'am.
My major issue is I know that we're not allowed to have like lockdowns during the lunch period, but I feel that it's an essential time to have a lockdown, because if someone's going to pull out a gun and start shooting people, I feel like that would be like a time where they would do it, because it's an open area. The kids don't really know where to go if there is a lockdown situation. They don't have anywhere to hide. So I feel that we should do lockdown during the lunch period to show the kids like what to do in that situation.
Anybody here from Lynn Tech?
I was in the bathroom saying like we cross buildings, so like it can easily happen with one person crossing the building, because it's all four grade groups. If you cross the building at a time of 3 grade groups at a time across the classes. So we have outside, we have to do outside, we have the cars parked up, so we can walk by the parking and get the weapon, no matter what the security is inside the school, we get outside the school regardless. So when we're walking across the street, you never know what could happen.
So I want to make a comment about what you said, trapdoors or whatever. So you may think that's crazy. It's not. It's not in bulletproof doors, because right now we're working with the Mass School Building Authority, the MSBA, and you all know that we have the new Marshall Middle School in Lynn. And most school buildings, you've given me an idea now, most school buildings are now having double doors so people can go into foyers and putting bulletproof glass in those, in that area, or at least in the front doors. Also, walking across the street, I know. Yeah, I don't know what we do with that, but other safety issues are coming up all the time, and really, maybe it's a real good idea if we ask students, what do you think? because it might be a good idea. Or to even, who mentioned the cafeteria, to divide up the cafeteria so it can be used in many different ways. You've given me, just this question alone has given me a lot of ideas, because we're working now to design a couple of new middle schools, as you know. So thank you. You know, your ideas aren't crazy.
One of the other things that the mayor just talked about was that most of these events, shooting or otherwise, threats, declarations, are triggered by either fellow students or ex-students or kids who are familiar with students and have something very specific in mind. Having said that, and that's true, having said that, if you as a student pick up a scent or a whisper, or you hear something that another student is contemplating, or even talking about, or showing a picture of a weapon, that in any way would infer that something is in his or her mind, it's not good. What would you do about it?
I mean, a lot of the time, could be anyone. Someone that doesn't show anything, like they don't have to show pictures, they don't have to say something. You can, like, you could just look at someone and not even know that they could be that type of person to walk into the school and shoot them.
Well, what would you do about it if you did hear something, hear through the grapevine, or hear with your ears, or see with your eyes, that you would view as potentially a threat? What would you do about it?
So what would I do about the threat?
What would you do about it?
I mean, it's an obvious answer. I'd go to someone of authority and tell them about it, because I would rather the school not get shot at.
Okay, you would do that without any fear of your own safety or retribution?
I understand that there could be consequences from that person, but you could keep it like confidential, maybe have it so they don't know.
So you would trust the adult?
Yeah.
Whether it be a school resource officer, a teacher, a custodian, somebody you would just say, I need to get this out. I mean,
I wouldn't just go up to them, like, as soon as I hear something, I'm not going to walk up to them and be like, this kid's trying to do something.
I get it.
I would go maybe like the principal's office, tell the principal, or bring the teacher outside of the classroom and discuss something with them.
Mr. Mayor, wants to raise his hand here?
I got probably like...
Sorry, go ahead.
I got probably like, maybe they should have on the phone, like, because you don't want to like call on the phone and talk. Maybe you should get like some type of passcode that you put on like 1, 2, 3, 5 or something like that. Yeah, something
on the phone.
So it's like you're informing like a department or something like that to like inform that like a warning, how to stand by or something.
Are you saying on your phone?
Not the. You know how the teachers have the phone on the.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So you just put it. Something like that. So you don't talk on the phone. It's like
occasionally somebody does that with 911, but we're not having like that.
So like you just.
You're right.
Just a standby or something.
So recently the school committee actually voted to have. So what we're doing right now, I signed a requisition for it this week. So Tuesday had to be yesterday. I think when I signed these things. For that the police department has a tip line, text or a call anonymously. And so we're making posters up for all of the high schools, and we're going to put them in, so that would help, would it not, with what you're saying? You could text or call the police department, and I know that it is totally anonymous. So that's going to help. So that, what you said, all of you, that makes me feel
So
good.
I'm going to come back to this young lady. Somebody down there had the hand. Yes, go ahead,
I just had to add upon what he was saying, but about if you gotta whisper about something or anything like that, but you also gotta make it more complex, like he said about the dial. Yeah, because there's always gonna be that one kid that thinks everything's a joke or whatever, or like, let's say you don't like somebody, let's say I don't like him or something, or we have an issue, I'm gonna be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go tell the principal that he has a gun in school just to make his life hell. So when you hear that the whole school has to go through a lockdown just to find out that it was just a joke that I didn't like him, is when it becomes an issue. So that's why I think we should make it more complex, or you know, put something in that's foolproof.
What school are you from?
Lynn Tech.
Yeah, from Tech. Good question.
Just a question.
And this young, go ahead.
How often do you think that happens where someone falsely reports something?
I don't think, honestly, it's too often, but I think this year at Lynn Tech it happened once or twice, where we had a lockdown we were at a lockdown for about an hour. 3 times, I think, been locked down for about an hour or 2, and just to find out that it was just a joke or it was false or someone was just like playing a prank on their friend or something like that, when we wasted 2-3 hours of time we could spend in school learning and stuff or doing something else, sitting in the corner of the classroom worrying about our lives when it was just a joke.
Okay. Thank you.
This young lady wanted to comment.
I was gonna say, I know some schools have like police officers, so I would like to comment.
So the school resource officer, we can talk about it, the middle schools. Go ahead.
Yes.
So you want those in high school, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or like where I go affected, we have one, so there will be more houses.
So you're a Tecto now, and you have a school resource, and you trust that individual implicitly, right? You have great trust in him. You would have no problem taking that SRO into your confidence. You're not worried about confidentiality, any of that stuff. And that's why I did that. One of the reasons I did. That's a good comment. Thank you.
Just to add up on to what she said. So I know my principal at Lynn School, every year he tries to get a student resource officer outside our school, but you guys say, oh, we don't have the budget for it. But if you guys have the budget for it to deploy them in like middle schools, Spectral area, I feel like you guys should just basically put them all over the high school, because I would trust a resource officer having a gun versus every teacher having one. Because like each one has to go through basic training and that's like their job.
So let me comment. Go ahead.
So I actually talked to the chief of police to inquire why they're not in high schools as well. So we don't have a full police force in the city, so we need to get that done first, and then we can discuss the possibility of adding more into our schools. I think we're down 20 officers. We just hired 11 or so, but we have to have the police force in order to have them placed. And the good thing about the ones that are placed in the middle schools right now, these aren't just new police officers. These are officers with experience that have the background that we need to have those building relationships within these schools. So if we're going to take these experienced police officers off the city streets into the classrooms, we need someone to take their place. But that isn't, I thought the same thing. I said, why not have them in high school as well? And if you dig a little deeper, you'll see why. It's not just the school department saying that we can't afford it in our budget, it's the actual personnel as well.
And we have,
that's important.
It is in the middle schools. They were originally put in the middle schools, and we wanted them there. In fact, area is 7 to 12, so it has middle school grades. We put them there because we wanted students, and it's part of our dropout work as well. Students form relationships in the middle schools, and we wanted them to start forming relationships with the SROs and being able to go to somebody. So that was our first priority at the time. But Mr. Satterwhite is correct. It's difficult with right now. They are active police officers, those SROs. And so it's hard for the police department to spare a few more officers for us.
Another small piece of that in terms of the value of the school resource officer inside the buildings is the very fact that they have a cruiser. And that cruiser is parked in front of your building. That in itself is a deterrent, okay, for some folks that may have some nefarious thoughts or ideas that might think, oh, wait a minute, there's a police officer in that building. So that's a good comment. Part of the discussion of the previous group, as it related to school safety, was the fact that in the Lynn Public Schools, we do not have metal detectors. In some school districts, they do have metal detectors. It's controversial. What are your thoughts on that? Policymakers, our school committee would have the right to vote to install metal detectors in the Lynn Public Schools. Mr. Mayor is going to start it again. He's good. Where are you going to go with this?
I think that we should have metal detectors.
You should?
Even though it's controversial, but like, I'd rather be safe than sorry, because like, if you have a metal detectors, there's people that can bring in knives and guns and all that stuff. But if we have that before they get in, all they're gonna do is, like I said upstairs, all they're gonna do is bring in books.
And just to piggyback off the previous statement, I believe last time Superintendent Lathan explained that all of our schools have cameras that are inside and outside, and that they're directly tied to the Lynn police station. So you might not have an officer physically there, but you have an officer in the police station that's looking at the cameras that are inside and outside and for anything that's suspicious. And if you have any questions about that, I think you can answer.
I just wanted to add on to what you said previously about not having enough officers to deploy in each school. Well, I know classical is located on a sheet where there's 3 schools. So instead of parking a car right outside Reed, why don't you guys park it like outside of the intersection between Classical and Callahan, so like if an incident happens, he could easily make his way there within like a second.
In addition to that, just so you know, Mr. Satterwhite brings up another point that you can talk about. The Lynn Police Department there's numbers and letters on every door. And you probably noticed them. They're stenciled and painted in white. Numbers and letters. So the police department, okay, from its central dispatch office, if an event is occurring at the school, all right, either triggered by a camera or a phone call, all right, they know by virtue of where their cameras are, where the event is in that particular school. And there's always a cruiser in the school, okay, by virtue just of our own geography. Okay. Rather than have that police cruiser respond to the main office, if it's a door in the field house at Lynn Tech, they don't waste any time going to Lynn Tech's office, our main building, or the annex. They go to the door that an event is occurring. Same with every other school in the district. That's also important. So that's a resource as well. Mr. Satterwhite mentioned the cameras. Over the past 8 to 10 years, starting with our police liaison, we have now Officer Wright, who you're all familiar with. We have installed hundreds and hundreds of cameras in our public schools. So talk about access to buildings. It came up in the last group. And that is, as you know, every door in your school is locked all day. And to get in, to have access, you have to be buzzed in. And if it's an elementary school, the secretary and our principal has a video screen. They can see who's at the door. And if they don't like what they see, or they have reason to question, they won't let them in. So all of our employees, as Dr. Lathan pointed out, have these lanyards, school board members have lanyards. If you were to see someone in, let's go to Lynn Tech, and let's say that you're in the main building, and you're in a corridor between shops, and you see an adult, or even a younger, obviously not a teenager, walking down the corridor, and you don't see one of these, or you don't see a red lanyard, what would you do?
Myself personally?
Yeah.
I go back to where I didn't go. I would probably like alarm my teacher, hey, I've seen something that wasn't looking right. I went in up low, you let me know what happens. Alright.
So right answer, you go to an adult, because you know if somebody's in your building that's an adult and doesn't have one of these on, he's not a faculty member, not an employee, and if he doesn't have, or she doesn't have a red one on, they're not supposed to be there. So why? That's a good comment. Go find an adult. First adult you see. I don't care if it's a custodian. Report it right off the bat. Don't confront. Don't confront.
When I go into a building, if I see somebody without a lanyard on, I immediately confront them. Who are you? And if they say, well, I'm a teacher here, I say, well, where is your lanyard? Why isn't it there? And so we have launch all the time. You should expect to see them on everybody who works for the Lynn Public Schools.
Somebody in the previous group also voiced the concern that after school, when most everybody is gone, but there are a lot of after-school activities, in and around the building. And that could be after-school programs, it could be athletics, it could be music. There's a sense from this, there was a person who thought the doors were wide open then. And anybody have the same feeling in their building? Do you think it's so?
Yeah. Like after school, it's really easy to get into the building. Like I myself, so after school I just take out my ID and I put it in my lock and I go to my car or whatever. But sometimes I forget something, so I come back and the doors are locked. But when a student sees me, a student I don't even know, they easily open the door, like not knowing who I am.
Yeah, you want to comment again, Mr. Mayor? Oh, thank you.
To be completely honest, and I don't want to put any school or like person under the bus, but I feel like even sometimes during school, although like we've all been made aware that there's police officers watching cameras, there's maybe some faculty watching cameras while we're in school. It is very easy. Like if you are an ally to somebody who wants to shoot at the school or wants to cause some sort of harm, it is very easy for a student to even go and open like a back door and let somebody in. Like I feel like sometimes our schools are so focused on the wrong things. Like sometimes, like God forbid, like my shoulder showing. Like that is what sometimes I feel like people are so concerned about. And I'm just like, okay, but like my shoulder isn't distracting anybody. Last I checked. So I feel like sometimes where we place our.
So you have to have no dress code.
Well, I'm just using that as an example, or like
But
even
that's
like.
the main focus, not the.
Yeah, like I feel like sometimes like they completely forget. Like we have a hall monitor in our school, and like he does a really good job. Like he's a really great guy, but. I know a lot of stuff are behind the scenes that we're not made aware of, and obviously for certain reasons we're still young and we don't know everything and every aspect of things. But like I don't think I've ever seen like I don't want to put anybody into this, but like I've never seen like taking charge in a safety way. I've only ever seen like those jeans are like or you're wearing leggings, you can't wear that, or like. You are in the lunch line and you get in the wrong line and like they're like, no, you have to go to the end of the line. Like it's like little stuff like that where it's just like that's what it seems everybody's focusing on sometimes, and it's frustrating as a student because sometimes like when it comes to the whole shooting stuff, like I have no worries going to a teacher and telling them what I'm doing. Like I'm not ashamed, like I'm not scared. But sometimes like a student can feel like, are they going to take me seriously? Because there are jerks that joke around about that stuff. Because like last year, I think classical, Lynn Tech, and English, we all got like the bomb there on the same day. And like it wasn't taken seriously, we were evacuated. But the way it was relayed to some students, it was just like, oh, it's nothing serious. Like sometimes I just feel like the gravity isn't weighing on the students as much as it should be.
Well, I just want to emphasize the first thing you said, that it will take the efforts of another student opening the door. So the doors are locked. And you're right, it's taken the action of someone else. And you're saying this hall monitor might be more focused on what you're wearing and not necessarily looking to make sure no one's opening doors. Is that?
Yeah, in a sense, right? I feel like that's all I'm ever seeing. Okay. Or a lot of us are like, that's like a lot of what we talk about.
So how does the dress code, and you brought this up now, how does the dress code in any way have any connotation towards school safety?
I think what she was trying to say is that the focus nowadays is more on, oh, what are you wearing? Like, don't show your shoulders, versus, oh, we should put more, like, basically, like, focus more on, like, safety, not what we're dressing.
So both of you are for school uniforms, is what I'm hearing.
I honestly don't care what I wear to school.
Honestly, no, what we're trying to say is that,
I'm just joking.
Now what we're trying to say is that, like, our whole life, since I was born in Boston, but I was raised in Lynn my whole life. I went through the whole Lynn school system. Our whole life, we were taught like basic procedures like lockdowns. And I get it, like that's essential, but a lot, like shooting can happen after school, between school, anything, not necessarily only during like classes, because our lockdowns are usually only like when we're in classes and the hallways are empty, so it's easier to go in the back of the class. But like what if it happened during like, you know, in between classes where the hallways are packed, how would we react? Like I myself don't even know how I would react. If there was a lockdown, like an actual shooting between classes, I don't know what class I'd go to because the hallways are packed.
No, but I think what you're saying is we should have, like, so the Florida shooting, I believe the fire girls both, and everyone was scattered. So you're saying that we don't practice it when it's like that? Is that what you're saying? It's normally when you're in class doing work and it's easy to
yeah, so we should practice it more than one way.
You have a question?
It's not really a question, but it's just statements that add upon what I said earlier about kids not taking it seriously, because personally, when we have a lockdown drill in school, right, it could be serious and it could be a drill, we never know. But those all, like, sitting in the classroom in the corner with the kids, there's always those kids that joke around and laugh because they think it's a drill. And you know that thing where people don't take it seriously until it actually happens. And personally, I don't want it to be like, I don't want to go through that experience of, oh, it actually happened until people start taking it seriously. So, I don't know if there's something we could do to make it take it seriously, because I was scrolling through social media the other day, and a school had a lockdown drill, right? And they didn't tell the kids anything about it, and they had video cameras in school, in the classroom, and kids were joking around and laughing around in the corner of the class and stuff, and they had a police officer with a gun, like with blanks in it, walking around the hallways, and he started shooting the gun, and that's when kids actually started, like, they heard the gunshots, they started taking it seriously, started to quiet down, so I don't know if that's something. No.
Real situation.
Yeah, I'm just saying, personally, during the lockdown, when I'm in the classroom, there are kids in the same classroom too that are joking around and doing the same thing, not taking it seriously. Yes.
I've heard, like, there were 2 lockdowns over the past month.
Yeah.
Yes, there was one was, I would think, was very serious.
It was for about like 2 hours.
Was that the one that was outside?
Jackson's
house. And the men's actually did an excellent job. I got the report that you were the slipper. You did a great job.
So this is another, as a result recently of the events across the country, like school shootings. So the police departments across the country have always agreed to the lockdown theory and stay in place until there's an all clear. There's a new school of thought that maybe you folks have some ideas on, and that is get everybody out of the building. As opposed to being in the building. If an area can be identified, or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 doors, if the shooter is in a contained area. So break the lockdown and get kids out. What are your thoughts on that? Start with the mayor.
So like with that, I think it's a good idea. But instead of having us go out in the hallways trying to find, maybe y'all should have emergency windows you can kick open on the first floor and get out, or on the second floor have like emergency with the ladders coming down or something like something just like quick, like we're still in the room, we can still get out without like going through the hallway. Someone
I was gonna say the same thing, but also piggyback on that idea. But also you gotta think about where would the kids be? Like,
and how can you keep your eyes on them?
Exactly. Since there's like, let's say there's a 1 to 25 student-teacher ratio, how can you keep that one teacher, his eyes or her eyes on 25 students that are like, they're hearing gunshots and are told to leave the school? You know how some kids have anxiety, they have panic attacks, some of them might take off, some might like just shut down and freeze.
They like, get hurt running.
Exactly.
Got hurt in the... you know, you're right, anything can happen during that transition.
Yeah, so like, would we have to train teachers for that to handle cases like that? Like, handle students that might want to take off, or kids that like have like mental issues that might shut down or, you know, act differently towards it?
So that brings us to another controversial piece of this, which was a lengthy discussion in the previous group. So we're talking about getting kids out of buildings.
Yeah.
How about, because of the use of cell phones, we have people rushing to get into the building?
What?
That would be, kids have cell phones, call their parents,
parents
shooting in the school. So what are your thoughts about accessibility to and utilization of cell phones, let's call it during an active shooting or during a lockdown? You don't know if it's a drill or not. What are your thoughts on cell phones? Have a teacher collect the cell phones or keep the cell phones in your possession, understanding there's a consequence, okay, to the use of the cell phone, plus or minus? What are your thoughts? I'm sorry, go ahead, St.
Who would we be calling?
Say it again.
We'd be calling our parents?
You don't have to, but you'll help you recover. about your cell phone.
So we'd want our parents to come here to gun shops?
We don't.
I feel like
That's
Is that what the idea is?
That happens.
Shut up.
Would you want the cell phone, or do you want the teacher to collect the cell phone?
One talk, please.
I don't want to add to the whole process. You can just keep your cell phone in your pocket. There's no need to go through more stress and everything while there's a shooting going on.
kids are blank.
I would keep the cell phone, but I'm not gonna call my parents, so
You're not going to.
but I want to keep my cell phone because given like, let's say you have 30 kids to one teacher in the classroom, you don't want to have all 30 kids give the phone to the teacher.
Take up too much.
Then that's going to take too much time, and you don't know what's happening, everyone's going to get stressed, like it's too much happening at the moment.
So you wouldn't call your parents, or if somebody else did, what if your parent tried to reach you, and your cell phone goes off, and there's a shooter out in the hall who doesn't know where anybody is, and a cell phone rings?
Wow, I agree.
Wow.
I mean, I'm right there.
This is
You had a lot of things.
A different hand.
Which one?
You, young lady.
Okay.
Ladies before gentlemen.
So I think we should keep our phones. I mean, like, if you want to call your parents, you can. But like, don't tell them to come and pick you up from school during an active shooting. Like, you could let them, like, you could alert them on what's happening and keep them updated and keep your phone on silent, obviously. So that they don't worry as much and like rush to a school where there's active shooters and possibly get caught in the crossfire.
How about setting aside, if this was to occur, in the case of, how about setting aside a place for parents to get together? Or instead of running to school, somebody else has their all parents over here. Does that make sense?
So like, for us, we go to KIT, so we're next to High Rock. Like, I think for like, if we're in the gym, we go to High Rock, right? I don't know, like I've never been in the gym for a lockdown, but like we go specifically somewhere, so like parents can go somewhere close by, but not somewhere where they can get hurt or like where the shooter would go.
Yes.
Yeah, and building off of that, and the idea of like having a place where parents go, like if there's an actual emergency and there's an actual gunman in the school, like police, like the authorities would be alerted and they'd set like a perimeter around anyway, right? So then wouldn't that like block off the parents from coming? But also I was thinking about the like scatter like mindset, and I agree that honestly I agree that like you should kind of just be able to scatter, because like there's a reason the whole like we'll be sitting ducks is like a thing.
But you're saying on your own, just everybody run to a door?
Honestly, yeah, because even if you can't keep track of
Honestly, yes, everybody on your own, just go.
Yes.
So,
because like even if you can't
see
keep
a
track.
Could you see a trampling in that case? Yes. Everybody going to the same door?
Or is everyone going out, or like what the mayor was saying about?
It's kind of coincidental to a fire drill. Only if there's a fire, you would act the same way as you would during the drill, and that is an orderly, panic-free exit. Now, obviously, it's different if somebody has a popping of a gun, but I would think about that as maybe a cause and effect to a difficult circumstance.
And if we could just have Dr. Talk about you last session we had, you were talking about the balance. You want to emphasize that?
Sure. Well, first I'll say that there is an academic school of thought to what you're talking about, what you're referencing relative to evacuation. It's called ALICE, and it's an acronym that stands for, I don't know, the last two letters stand for counter and evacuate. So there's training, actually college children's school districts have adopted this, some have, some haven't. But if, for example, if there's an incident in Lynn Tech and it's happening in the annex, you don't want all the students locked down in the main building. They should evacuate and get to a place of safety, maybe the YMCA, maybe it's the Burger King down the street, I don't know, but out and away from harm's way. Same thing with the building, wherever the incident is happening, the other side of the building, that side of the building would evacuate. Earlier, the conversation was related really to police presence and dog searches happening in schools. And some of the students were referencing a level of discomfort with that and feeling like it was not in keeping with the culture of the school. And I just was talking about having worked in both the suburban schools and the Boston public schools. Really, we want to try to our foremost priority is your safety. We want to make sure that when you arrive to us in the morning, you're safe, and when you leave, you're safe, and everything in between, you're safe. We're willing to go to the end of the earth for that. So that means having an SRO at the school, we're doing it. If that means practicing lockdown drills, there is a school of thought around that. I understand that there's some different thinking around it, but we're going to practice it and make sure we got it down right. But we're also going to make sure that you're healthy in terms of having access to guidance counselors, your health curriculum, learning about mental health and healthy relationships, drugs and alcohol, safe or good decision making. So there's a balance of both, sort of the hardcore safety stuff with police, lockdown drills, dog searches, things of that nature. But then there's also, we as educators, it's all part of us around the teaching environment. That's happening as well. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I got a question. Why can our homeowners get a gun license since a lot of students in our school feel comfortable with them? Like how the middle schoolers feel comfortable with the cops in their schools, why can't they get a gun license and they can carry it legally just in case?
A student?
No, the whole research, homeowner.
I don't know that we want people on other than police officers in the building, so that I think would be for another conversation. And that would have to include Chief McGarry of the Lynn Police Department. It's a thought. I know there has been a lot of controversy lately about arming teachers and administrators and coaches in buildings. I think that conversation, I've been watching it, but I don't know if we're ready to arm other people in the buildings other than our SROs. I've talked to the Lynn Police. If something happens at a school, they drop everything and send every available resource to the school. So, and of course, they're all around the city all the time, the police officers and the cars that are on duty. So, we have good support here with the Lynn Police Department. So, I don't know about arming our school monitors as yet, but I'm watching that conversation.
And that's really how we work together. The superintendent is obviously privy to this stuff because she's a part of organizations that include other superintendents throughout the country, right?
Yes.
And even regional with regards to the North Shore area. So they all speak, and these things are discussed, and some districts that are like us might try it out and say, hey, guess what, it worked for us, it might work for you. And then she, in turn, says, hey, this is what's going on, I'm going to give you the research, and as a democracy, we're the ones that need to vote on it because we're in charge of policies and whatnot. So this is good. This is what we do as professionals and elected officials.
And Dr. Tutwiler mentioned Alice, that particular training is a different way to look at when somebody has gotten into the school. It's just a different way. We have adopted with the Lynn Police Department some of the facets of Alice. It's an acronym. I can't think of all of what they stand for either, but we haven't adopted all of it. And it's interesting to note that there are things that we could do probably in a high school that we could never do in an elementary school because you people are, many of you are adults, you're over the age of 18, in some cases you're over the age of 20 in school. And we could get a certain amount of cooperation or whatever with high school students. So we have to watch all of these things and take bits and pieces from all of them and adapt for ourselves. So just to say.
One of the things that seems to be associated with, in some way, a lot of these school events, shootings or otherwise, that cause harm or impede on safety in schools. And it comes under the purview of the school committee, is bullying. And we hear about bullying in many, many forms, from pre-K to elementary, all the way up through secondary schools as a fact of life. And it seems to be a trigger for a lot of these events. One of the comments earlier is that all of these shootings, by and large, they're done by kids that are familiar with school. Students, ex-students, we talked about earlier. How do you feel about the bullying aspect of that? And the actual, what bullying really is? What is the real description? Not a fist fight, for example, after school. Is not bullying, but bullying on a sustained, continuous basis, impacting someone's own self-esteem, could trigger these events. Anybody have thoughts on that? Go ahead.
Although I do see like the argument in the sense of like if you don't socially cast someone out, then they're like less likely to feel slighted, less likely to do these things. I do feel like it's really unfair to like the students that are the victims of the shooting. Like people were, like there was a thing about the Parkland shooter and how this girl was like totally nice to him and everything like that. And it's like see, like I was nice to him, it didn't make a difference. So like, and I just really don't think it's fair to put that responsibility on the students, because then afterwards, if you like survive this, if you end up surviving it, you think like, oh man, like I don't know, I guess I could have been nicer to him. I could have, you know, invited to sit with him at lunch, this and that. Like this is kind of on me, and that's just a really big burden to put on kids who are in this scenario already going through so much.
All right, thank you, young lady.
I think bullying definitely plays a role in school shootings, but other things do too. And I think better like social and emotional health classes in schools, you know, starting with that and really getting in depth, like, you know, about controversial topics that no one wants to talk about. That'll help people a lot, and having more resources. Like you should be able to text your school health center or social worker if you don't feel comfortable going to talk to them. And you know, all different, there's a lot more that we could do to make people more aware of their social and emotional health, so they could deal with issues before it gets to the point where they want to go shoot up the school, because they're angry at their family or the people they go to school with, and etc.
That's right, attack. So how bullying manifests itself, and it may be a student that you're already friendly with, or could be in a class, and you would see a change in that child's behavior. You're aware of maybe some bullying, or would you report it? And would you call it? Would you get, every school is a social worker. Right now, except I think for English high school. Would you report it to a social worker?
Would you report the bullying?
Yes. You're concerned, you're seeing something, a dramatic change in the persona of a fellow student, and going into the shell, just showing changes in their behavior that you might feel is the manifestation of bullying. Would you, or how would you report it?
I mean, I feel it all varies, and it all depends on what the situation was. You don't know if that person may be having family issues, or maybe it is bullying. You wouldn't want to report it to
That's what you don't know, right?
Yeah, you don't want to report it not knowing, and then find out that it's something completely personal, something that you shouldn't have stuck your nose.
But they could help if it's a family issue too.
Yeah.
If it's bullying. If there's a family issue with the students being neglected, then the school's mandated to report certain abuse. So either way, it's going to help the kids, especially, you know, you never know what someone's going through.
Yeah, because you don't want to see people start to be like all happy and joyful, and then start to see that they slowly go down and like you said, shell. Like, you don't want to see them be from happy to completely depressed, completely like different mood changes.
So you would tell a professional in school that you're noticing these changes?
I mean, like if it was a scenario where I have a friend, and let's say I just notice a complete change of like his attitude or behavior, and he doesn't tell me about it, and I try, I feel like I would go to someone like more of like a higher status in a way. I don't know if describe that, but like just at least inform them that, oh, I really care for my friend and my friend is doing this and this and that, his changes are this, and I really want to do something about it, I don't know how.
Good.
So a large number of recent shooting events in schools, when they get done their investigation, takes weeks, months, days, whatever the case may be, a large number of these events, they finally conclude as a result of bullying. So had somebody detected in some fashion, detected that students change of personality going into that show we talked about? Is it correct that we should report it?
I think that a big part of the problem is that there's not really a great deal of follow-up after the event has been reported, because I know, especially like watching the news and seeing videos online of students at the parking school, they specifically said that they knew that like Nicholas Cruz was the type of student, and there was no follow-up. There was no like secondary mental health services done, and like mental health services are clearly a big portion of like the reason why children go into schools and do what they do, because they just don't have.
Are you talking outside of school? So during the school day, he might be getting the services, but once he leaves, there's no pushing that out.
Or even like they go and visit the house once, and like they send a police officer to the house, and they say like, oh, can I check the house? And if they don't happen to find anything there that time, then they might not follow up on anything.
That's a good.
Also, I want to be clear about what I want to say is, I feel like sometimes when we say stuff, we generalize it, but the culture in this school and in the city is very different compared to how it is in Florida. So, for example, like in my school, I don't technically see a lot of bullying. There are a lot. And I talk to a lot of people, so I don't necessarily, and I know a lot of the people, a lot of the seniors at my school, and even juniors and freshmen and sophomore, we all collectively are against bullying, so we are all willing to stand up to it. But also, I personally as a student feel totally comfortable going to any of my teachers, because the teachers, at least at English, I feel very comfortable. We have a good student-teacher relationship. But also there are some students, because they are my peers, as soon as you say to a kid, oh, like this is a professional that you can talk to, like that can easily turn them away. Just in the sense where you want somebody you can relate to, like growing up in Lynn, like there are low income cities there where people have more money and like they grew up with nicer like stuff. Like you go to Kerwin Circle, people aren't as fortunate as like I don't live in Kerwin Circle, but like I have a stable home. Like I come from a very like blessed home. So I feel comfortable going to professionals. I don't view them as somebody who's higher above me and like maybe all like preppier or whatever. But there are some students who come from those places, and as soon as they hear that, they're immediately like
they're going to be judged.
Yeah, and not even necessarily judged, but like they just feel like no, like I can't do that. And I feel like sometimes we have to like in a way reform the way we're trying to reach our students. And we were saying this when we were at the city council meeting, is that a lot of people want new things and this and that, and like you have to pick a budget. You have to think we can't necessarily afford to put an officer in every single school. So like what do we do next? Instead of sitting here and not arguing about it, like who do we have in our school that could step up? Like, okay, we may not be able to put metal detectors in, but let's say teachers are supposed to get there before the students. So what if you have teachers at every entrance? Because although we're all supposed to go through like the field house and fit readings, or although we're supposed to go through the front, like there are students who go in through different exits ultimately, like that's how it works. So why not have like a teacher station at like every place? Like why not just like actively start doing this, using what we already have to prevent like stuff that's going on with the culture?
Dr. Tutwell, do we have corridor duty, Dr. Lincoln, in our schools for teachers who have a free period? How does that work?
The hall monitors are really responsible for that. It's one person, and we're talking a lot of square footage. But corridor duty, no. I know that there are teachers that do like they're stationed in strategic places throughout the building. But walking the hall is not very.
So in terms of resources, you've talked about having someone you can talk to there. That English you mentioned, good teacher relationship with students. students are comfortable talking with the teacher, taking the teacher into confidence, absent an SRO, for example. But we also have community health centers in most of our schools. Right, Dr. Latham?
Yeah.
Is there you talk about the mental health aspect of it. Can you talk about that a little bit, about
Well,
the resource?
we have, Lynn Community Health has either behavioral, so that's psychologists, psychiatrists, that kind of assistance in buildings. I think we have 11. Some of the schools have physical, so you can have your physical done. If you go to the Lynn Community Health Center as your primary care is there, you can get medical help right at the school. There's a nurse practitioner there who can write a prescription should you need one. So we also have their behavioral help or assistance from people who are trained clinical workers who can help you out, or you can ask for help there. So not every school has it. The high schools and the middle schools, I think, most of them have.
So part of our curriculum, or certainly department under the curriculum department, is health, wellness, and physical education. And in terms of your own experiences in the public schools, for sure, do you think that the health and wellness curriculum, or the classroom aspect of that, physical education aspect of that, in any way opens doors of opportunity for kids to have trust in folks, or maybe go see a school nurse? We talk about suicide prevention, all these things that occur in children's lives. We talk about teen pregnancy, all of these things. Do you think that the resources, as Dr. Latham spelled them out, as Dr. Tatwala does, do you think we have sufficient resources to be able to find a place for someone to talk to privately? Ma'am?
I live in Tech, I know our team health center, which is pretty sure Lynn, very much. So I know the team health center, a lot of the kids go to that program just to get stressed out of their mind. A lot of kids, they're writing 20 minutes every day, and they go to team health center, and they go to team health center. So I feel like it really does help. Kids really do use that outlet. Because we do have a lot of stress going on. Like high school kids, yeah, people think their life should be easy, they don't have to pay bills, but you never know what has to go on outside of life, like you guys said. So when they go into those people, those are the people that they actually trust. Because you guys say, everybody's split, you can't trust nobody. But they have that one person that they can trust and go talk to. That makes a whole difference. Because being outside and more at home compared to having one good friend, one person that you trust, makes a huge difference. It makes you a big stress release and you can fall back on. So I feel like that makes them want to come to school, that help them with the bullying, cope them with the bullying. It's something they can free their mind off, something to get their mind off all the stress that's happening, all the bad stuff. They can focus on the bright instead of staying in the dark.
That's awesome. Any other comments or thoughts on that? Okay, how is that?
So we need to wrap up. Did you guys want to do a vote, or?
So I think we've come to that. So let's come up with something we're up to. Let's talk about the dress code. Get into some formulation of the vote. So one of the things I talked about in the last group, in terms of this young lady's favorite topic, dress code, is overemphasis of it. But in terms of school safety, one of the reasons that part of the dress code was implemented not that many years ago had to do with styles. And the style was shirts untucked. So a polo shirt, man or woman, okay, by nature of it, is usually originally a golf shirt. So as a golfer swings it would go, so they're long. So an untucked polo shirt could come down and cover your butt. Okay? So we put in, the school committee voted, that part of the dress code, shirts must be tucked. It was chaos. We actually had students come to a school committee meeting where the parent, who happened to be a faculty member, and attacked the school committee for doing that because his son wanted to have his shirt up. But the risk of that is, as a police officer showed us, you could actually hide a rifle from your shoulder, down through your pants, down to your leg, with an untucked shirt. Also, you could hide a machete, tucked into the back, you could have a pistol, tucked into the front, tucked into the belt, tucked into your pocket, tucked into the back of the belt. So let's go ahead and take a vote. We'll wrap this up. Mr. Mayor, you want to make a comment again? You are really good.
Yeah, but like that whole tucking in and stuff, even if you have it tucked in, you can still try to hide something. Like,
Hide a gun.
Like you could put a gun in your sock, in your
He
pocket.
said even if it's untucked. But this is where it's important. We're talking in it, so this is where it's important. There's, he's presenting something you gotta vote on. It's either a yes or a no. And that's what you have. So I'm assuming what we're gonna vote on is.
I'm gonna have you take a vote right now. And as opposed to, I'm gonna start down there now. As part of your new dress code, will shirts be tucked in or not?
Let's say no.
No. No. No.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely. Young lady,